ask you to wear a mask in public settings to fend off another surge of the virus. After trending up in recent weeks, the amount of COVID-19 in wastewater in Ottawa has been dropping for about a week. OPH does say the level of COVID-19 does remain high, even with indicators dropping, that coupled with the flu season, which is starting, has the body urging you to mask up when out in public. After CHIO experiences busiest September on record at the emergency department, the hospital is hoping to increase awareness of respiratory illness. Experts say children they see in emergency are sicker and a higher proportion have respiratory illness. Once they are admitted for treatment, the units they are sent to have been operating over capacity, sometimes over 120%. The CHIO plans to combat the fall flu and COVID-19 season will be outlined at a briefing this afternoon. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A cloudy day with some showers at times, a gusty wind and strong wind out of the south. Our guaranteed high 23 degrees. It'll feel even warmer with the humidity. For tonight, some light rain at times turning colder near 5 and becoming mainly sunny on Thursday. A brisk northwest wind, the high just 11. For today, the high 23.
City News time is 10:02. The latest release of 2021 census data shows immigrants make up nearly a quarter of all people in Canada. The data from StatsCan projects that immigrants will represent a third of all Canadians by 2041. Immigration now makes up the largest portion of the population since Confederation, with more than 8.3 million people in the country who were or had ever been a landed immigrant or permanent resident. StatsCan says immigration is the main driver of population growth, in part because the aging population and low fertility rates in the country. And the Premier has launched a legal challenge in federal court to prevent himself from being forced to testify at the public inquiry into the Federal Emergencies Act. City News reporter Kevin Meisner is at Queen's Park and has more.
MPPs are waiting to see if Premier Doug Ford will actually show up for question period today. He skipped it yesterday after receiving a summons to testify at the Emergencies Act inquiry in Ottawa. Doug Ford and his former Solicitor General Sylvia Jones plan to fight the summons in court, arguing being called to testify is inconsistent with their parliamentary privilege. The opposition parties, including Green Party leader Mike Schreiner, are accusing the Premier of trying to hide.
I would ask the Premier, what are you afraid of? Like, why is he afraid to be honest with the people of Ontario about the actions his government took or didn't take?
The hearing has already heard testimony that Ottawa city officials asked the Premier for help in ending the protest, but the provincial government initially refused, arguing it was a police matter. At Queen's Park, Kevin Meisner, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. We're so glad that you're here on City News. I'm Sam Laprade. We're going to be spending the next few hours getting to know people in our community. We're going to speak with George Darouze, who is Osgoode's councillor. Of course, that was a tight race against former councillor Doug Thompson. We're going to be speaking with George Darouze about all of his priorities for this upcoming term. We know it's a 4-year term, so we're going to see what George has planned. We're also going to speak with Joel Harden, NDP MPP for Ottawa-Centre. We are going to speak about the peekaboo champion, Doug Ford. We're going to talk about where is he hiding, and we're going to find out why, for instance, he wasn't at the Queen's Park legislature yesterday. We're trying to talk as well about the Emergencies Act inquiry and why he and his partner, Sylvia Jones, do not want to be part of the inquiry. We have lots to get to today. We're going to dive right in. We wanted to spend some time today with our councillor, of course, Catherine Kitts, councillor for Orleans South, Navan. Hello, councillor.
Good morning, Sam.
You retain the title, Catherine.
Yes, I'm thrilled about it.
That's fantastic. So, you know, your situation in terms of how you came to be at council is very different than others. Walk us through a little bit of the history there, Catherine.
Yeah, so I won in a by-election to replace Stephen Blais when he was elected our MPP here in Orleans. And the by-election took place during the first wave of the pandemic, so it was interesting from a campaign perspective as well. And then I got elected, in the midst of a virtual world with a very fractious city council midterm. And then there was no shortage of, crises during my first mandate with, the issues with the train, the convoy, and then, of course, the May storm that really impacted my rural communities. So baptism by fire. But, I got back out there and started campaigning a year and a half after I had first been elected, and I've received now a very strong mandate from my community, and so I'm encouraged to keep up the good work.
And was it a bit of a relief, Catherine, to do it the normal way, if you will?
Yeah, but what was interesting, of course it wasn't, as the pandemic wasn't as full on, and it was a general election. So, people were a little bit more aware that there was an election happening. But what was interesting is because of the ward boundary review changes, my ward changed the most dramatically out of any ward in the city. So I lost about 50% of what I represented under Cumberland Ward. And I gained many new communities under the new Orleans South Navan. So in a way, it felt like I was a half incumbent and I had to reintroduce myself to a lot of new residents. So I didn't take the incumbency for granted. My team and I door knocked like crazy, hit, tens of thousands of doors, but I'm very happy with the result, of course.
And what does that first meeting look like, Councillor Kitts, with Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe? What are those conversations do you expect them to sort of sound like?
Yeah, well, I'm, of course, very happy for Mark. And I was telling my team this morning that yesterday, as I was driving around picking up my lawn signs, I was listening to your coverage and hearing, some of the interviews with the new candidates and with Mark. And I really feel this sense of sort of optimism and hope, and that we're turning a page because, as I said, it was a very fractious, divisive city council. I could, easily characterize it as a bit of a toxic work environment. And I'm very excited to have sort of fresh faces around the council table and have a fresh start. So I think, Mark's spoken a lot about how, he wants to bring council together and represent the whole city. And I'm going to take him at his word on that. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully a more collaborative, collegial council.
Well, I suspect we'll be speaking again, Catherine, very soon. And, I'm anxious to sort of see who's going to land in these really important roles in terms of chairs of different committees as well. So we're going to be following very closely to see the next steps for this newly elected council. Thanks so much for your time today, Catherine.
Thanks, Sam. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Catherine Kitts joining us, Councillor for Orleans South Navan. Now we're going to take a little bit of a road trip. We're heading to Alta, Vista, to speak with newly elected Marty Carr. Hi, Marty.
Hi there. How are you today?
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Did you wake up the next morning, Marty, thinking, what have I done?
Sort of, yes, absolutely.
It is such a big job. And I think a lot of people, when they're running, it becomes the election. And then after, when you get elected, of course, then it becomes the mandate. Do you have any sense of, the sort of the timing for moving in and doing that, that transition with Mr. Cloutier?
Yeah, actually, I was meeting with Mr. Cloutier yesterday, actually. At the end of the day, I'm not only trying to adjust to a new job, I'm also trying to exit my current job as well. I was just on leave and trying to figure out the provisions of how that works. Of course, I worked in the federal government, so keeping really busy, not only getting up to speed, but also exiting my former life as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a good perspective there. I didn't think about that side of it. We know that all of council have the option to go to council school, and that's an opportunity to learn all about the inner workings of Ottawa City Hall. What is that going to be like for you, Marty? Are you excited about that option?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to have a better understanding of exactly how things are going to work. I'm really excited to meet all my colleagues around the table. Very excited about that. Actually, I've been working at home for the past 2.5 years, so one of those people that really enjoys the in-person interaction. So really looking forward to that.
That's fantastic. We were just speaking with Councillor Kitts, talking about obviously all those really important roles, chair and vice chair of different committees. Do you have your eye on any committees yet?
Yeah, it's funny. I just started to think about that yesterday. I mean, definitely I'm a transit taker, so Transit Commission interests me. Environment interests me. I mean, I haven't really thought of exactly what I'd like to put my name forward for. Planning's also a huge committee, so I'll be thinking about that in the next few days, I guess, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And we know that people of Alta Vista felt that maybe they haven't had the attention from past representatives. Do you feel the people of Alta Vista are ready for, to kind of get you to dig in deep and look at some big issues in the ward?
Yeah, absolutely. I heard that over and over again at the doors, that people really wanted to feel that Alta Vista was well represented. They sort of generally a feeling that because we were built so many years ago as a car-centric suburb, that we don't really fit the mold of other communities, but yet we're not the suburbs. And yeah, everybody really talked about how important it would be for me to be a strong voice for Alta Vista.
Have you had a chance to connect with Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe over the years, or is this just your first time going to be working with Mark?
Yeah, I met Mark very briefly during the campaign at an event that we were both at. We had about a 2-minute discussion. Mm-hmm. We've swapped a message so far and hope to speak to him in the next couple days.
That's fantastic. It certainly is a big learning curve. Are you ready for that, Marty?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, as Community Association President in Alta Vista for 4 years, and I think that makes me feel a bit confident that I understand, at least some of the basics, because I worked with the city and existing city councillor on so many files, but absolutely ready for the steep learning curve.
And I know a big role, of course, right now is finding your team. Have you started that process yet of finding your assistant and your constituent assistant, all of those important roles within your own office?
Absolutely, yeah. Working on exactly that this morning, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I believe it for sure. I've been in those roles before, Marty. I've been a staffer before, so I know how important it is to have somebody that you gel with and that you think is going to be good for the community. So definitely really important there. Well, good luck, Marty, in this upcoming term, and I'm sure we'll speak again and definitely stay connected. I know there's a lot of issues in Alta Vista. Our offices here are very close to that ward, and I want to make sure we keep an eye as well on what's happening for the people of Alta Vista.
Excellent. Thanks. I look forward to future discussion.
Look forward to it. Councillor
Bye.
Marty Carr, of course, Councillor-elect, I should say, for Alta Vista. We certainly appreciate that. November 15th is the big day. That's when all of these councillors and, of course, Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe will take the big chairs, and certainly, it's an important time for our city. And we've heard from so many people that they're looking forward to turning the page, to having a fresh look at the city of Ottawa. So we're definitely going to be following that very closely. On Lunch with Sam today, which happens between 12 and 12:30, we are so excited. We have a trio of Valley mayors. They're going to spend time with us today talking about all of the issues that are happening in the Valley, so you'll definitely want to stay for that. And lots of great guests as well on the business lunch, which happens between 12:30 and 1. We have lots of great guests for you. Joel Harden, once again, is going to join us a little bit later to talk about a number of issues happening at Queen's Park, so we'll definitely be catching up with Joel in a little bit. We want you to lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hello, my name is Shawn. And this is the Shawn Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
It was our 35th anniversary. To celebrate, we were on our way to Mama Rosie's, where we had our first date. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and listened. It helped us get to safety. So when I think of our anniversary, because now we have even more to celebrate.
Smudging is a very important part in our life as we're all learning to walk the good way. When we smudge, we use the sacred medicine, the white sage, the sweetgrass, the tobacco, and the cedar. It cleanses negative energy and replaces it by a positive energy. When I smudge, I cleanse my end and my eagle feather and start cleansing my breath to have better words. I will smudge my eyes so I could see the better things offered to me. I will smudge my ears to hear the good thing that people have to say. I will smudge my hair to have good thinking from my head. I will bring the smudge to my feet so I could walk in respect with our Mother, the Earth. Smudging is the way we give our prayers to connect our spirit to the Creator. We express gratitude for the gift of life, the learning, and growth.
Hi, I'm Sahai from The Wiggles, and this is my new book, Something in Common. Join me on an adventure as a camp counsellor helping some amazing children make friends and share what family means to them. I wrote this book with my friends at Children's Aid Foundation of Canada to help children who might feel lonely or like they don't belong. Not everyone has the same type of family, but we all have something in common. Download Something in Common for free.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thanks so much for being with us here on Rogers TV and City News. We certainly appreciate you tuning in. We have certainly a very big show for you today, as we do every weekday between 10 and 1. We wanted to spend some time today with Jean-Marc Ladouceur, Capitol Towers tenant leader for ACORN and also a war veteran. Hello, Jean-Marc.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. We know that obviously a lot of people are very concerned about rent and the interest rate and really just keeping the finances moving. I understand there's some issues in terms of your building.
Oh yeah, there's major issues. Like for myself, I got a 3,000 AGI above guideline increase, which I have to pay by November 1st. It's impossible.
Sorry, say the number again to me, Jean-Marc.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got a thing going on with a cabin in the background.
Oh, that's okay.
Over $3,000.
$3,000. Wow.
Yeah, by November 1st. I'm not a combat veteran, but I am a veteran. But I have no pension. I had a stroke 5 years ago so I make about 10,000-15,000 a year now.
So Jean-Marc, tell me a little bit about why you're receiving this this big hike.
They managed to pass it through Landlord and Tenants Act above guideline increase. They managed to pass it through Landlord and Tenants Act. We wanted to be there in person, but it was refused for some reason. So this was all done behind our back, basically. A lot of us here are like low income. We're low income seniors, people that are from other countries and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't understand what's going on here. And it's amazing that this building, which has got so many issues like bug infestation, it's got other things that need to be repaired, like windows, elevators, etc. they're going to charge the lowest income people $3,000 by November 1st. That's ridiculous.
And I understand as well, this, your building's located on Donald Street. Have you had an opportunity to connect with the landlord?
We did. We did have a meeting not too long ago, because we had a protest already. And in that meeting, they said the AGI is a done thing. Well, we're not done with it. We're not happy about it. It might be legal, but is it moral, right? It's not fair. Like, that's why, along with ACORN, we're fighting this all the way.
Have you reached out to Jean-Marc, to elected officials about this issue?
As far as I know, ACORN did. Some of them responded, some of them didn't. Elected officials, if they don't get involved, guess what? They're elected, right? They're going to find out who ACORN is. And ACORN's got a lot of members in Ottawa, in every district, so...
Is this weigh heavy on your mind, Jean-Marc?
Massively. Like, I had a stroke, like I said, 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they called me up this morning, and I made them an offer for $25 a month to the building until I catch up. But they told another tenant they want minimum $200 a month to pay back on this. I don't have that extra $200 a month. I count on a roommate usually to help me survive here and pay off the rent. My roommate moved out without notice, so it's everything weighs on me. And having had a stroke because of stress and blood pressure, this is not helping at all.
And let me ask you, you're not the only tenant, right? So how many other people in this particular building at Capitol Towers are affected by this $3,000 bill?
Over 100 tenants are. Not over 100 tenants. 100 units are.
100 units.
So we're talking, $300,000 that the building is trying to grab from us, which we simply don't have. Like I said, immigrants, low-income people, veterans, seniors. I've been in the building here 15 years. Some people have been there 30 years.
Wow.
And they're all being charged $2,000 to $3,000. I have no idea how they come out with those numbers.
And
nobody's willing to explain it to us. It's ridiculous.
Jean-Marc, you referenced as well that the building is not in the best shape. What have you experienced?
I'm on the first floor, so I don't use the elevators. But people told me that out of 3 elevators, there'll be 1 elevator available. And there is some people that are mobility impaired in this building, and they have to wait like 2 hours to get back to their apartment after going to the grocery store. Windows here, you can feel the air coming in wintertime. There's a bug issue here, bed bugs and cockroaches. Other people in other apartments have been waiting over 1 to 2 to 3 years to get repairs done because their ceiling caved in.
Oh, wow.
From the apartment above flooding and stuff like that. There's mold issues, you name it. This building's got it. We need a city inspector to look at all these units is what we need.
And Jean-Marc, somebody might be listening right now and saying, well, why don't you move? I mean, is that an option for you?
Unfortunately, it's not. Because I'm grandfathered in here, if I moved right now, they'll re-rent this apartment for $1,500. Ottawa Housing doesn't have enough units to house 100 people that would need to move that are low income right now.
Right.
And Ottawa's got to start building affordable housing, and we're not talking about projects. We're talking about every contractor that builds should have so many units available for people that need it.
Let me ask you this, Jean-Marc. If you were to think about what you would want out of this opportunity to share your story today with me here on City News and Rogers TV, what would be the goal of our time together today? What are you hoping happens?
We need to make a change. As people, like ACORN is an advocacy group, obviously. And with ACORN, we need to wake up. Like, we need to open our eyes and make a difference. ACORN does that. Like, it fights against bad landlords, against, bad business practices, bad government practices. So we need to wake up as a people. If people from Ukraine could fight for their rights at the revolution of peace, we need to fight also, Fight for your rights, people. Because if we don't fight for our rights, we get walked over by landlords or government. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I want you to take care of yourself. I know this is weighing heavily on you, and I'm hoping today maybe we've brought attention to this, and maybe, this is an opportunity for someone listening to reach out to you. We have a lot of elected officials that listen to us here on City News, and I'm hoping this puts something in action for you all, okay?
Thank you very much. And
Thanks for your time.
I hope this wakes up like government officials too, because we noticed we send a survey out to all the elected officials with basically what ACORN does and what's their opinion.
Right.
And some of them responded to it, replied to the survey. Others haven't. And ACORN, like I said, it's got 3,000 members at least in Ottawa.
Well, we'll definitely be keeping our eye on this story as well. Jean-Marc, thanks for your time today.
You're welcome. Have a great day now.
Thank you. Jean-Marc Ladouceur from Capital Towers. He's a tenant leader for ACORN and also a war vet. You can hear in his voice how stressful this is for him. Stay with us here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
$20. Hi, I'm Maggie. Come into my kitchen. When you're using salt in a recipe, check for saltiness. Not all salts are equal. A fine grain salt is a lot more salty than a large grain salt because that takes longer to get into the food. Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
Traffic and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, October 26th. Good morning. I am Damilola Onime. Right Right now in Ottawa, it is 20 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it is 19. And here's what's making news this hour. The Bank of Canada has raised its key interest rate by half a percentage point, bringing it to 3.75%. In a statement released alongside the rate increase, the central bank says its key interest rate will need to rise even further to clamp down on high inflation. Since March, the rate has climbed from 0.25% to 3.75%. Ontario has filed an application for judicial review seeking to quash a summons for Premier Doug Ford to testify at the Emergencies Act inquiry in Ottawa. The Attorney General says in documents filed in federal courts that, quote, irreparable harm will occur if Ford testifies. The province cites parliamentary privilege that provides immunity for sitting members of government from testifying in court and at inquiries. The Public Order Emergency Commission is examining the federal government's use of the Emergencies Act to end the so-called Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa and Windsor last winter. And the latest batch of census data reveals immigrants make up nearly a quarter of all people in Canada and are likely to represent a third of people in the country by 2041. The data from StatScan's 2021 survey shows just over 1.3 million new immigrants settled permanently in this country from 2016 to last year, and that's the highest number recorded in a Canadian census. City News time is 10:32. I am Damilola Onime. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. Thanks so much for spending this time with us. We wanted to take a little bit of a deep dive into the Emergencies Act inquiry. We've heard various testimony from different officials, including, of course, members of the Ottawa Police Service. We've heard from Mayor Jim Watson. We've heard from various people. We wanted to really speak with Michael Kempa about this issue because, of course, he is the Associate Professor of Criminology at the University of Ottawa. We wanted to get his take. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to spend time with you today. This Emergencies Act inquiry, we've got at this rate 65 people that will be testifying and giving their perspective on what that time was like here in the city. At the end of all this, of course, the mandate and the goal is to determine whether it was appropriate to use the Emergency Act or not. What are you seeing so far, Michael?
Well, up until yesterday, the testimony has covered almost up to the period of Friday, the 11th of February, when the province declared its state of emergency. As of today, we're starting to get into that fateful weekend between Friday the 11th and Monday the 14th, when the federal government declared its emergency with the support of the province of Ontario. Up until the Friday, I would say the balance of evidence is getting close to that very high bar of whether or not the act was needed or not, but has not quite crossed that bar. So what we learn over the course of this weekend is going to be what is critical to determining whether or not the federal government was right. What I'm seeing is the first pieces of evidence is that the crowd was changing over that weekend. There was an increase in the number of harder elements at the protest. The government may have had intelligence to suggest that things were getting out of hand. This is what we're going to be finding out over the course of the next couple of weeks.
It's really interesting, Michael, because so many of us, when we first looked at that list, we noticed Premier Doug Ford was missing. We noticed that the then Solicitor General Sylvia Jones was missing from that list. And now we're hearing that they have been asked and they're going to go to court to fight the testimony, fight the fact that they would even testify. What does this say to you from an inquiry perspective?
Well, as that weekend between when the province declared its emergency and the Fed declared an emergency on the Monday is so critical, the two people we now most need to hear from are, in fact, the Premier of Ontario and the Solicitor General for the province, because they are the ones who are making the key decisions over that weekend. We need to ask them, what was tried over those 3 days? What levers did you pull to try to resolve the matter, not only at the blockade at the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor, but in the streets of Ottawa? And what was not quite working? if they don't answer those questions directly, we are simply not going to have a full picture of why the federal government did what it did. I will tell you that attempting to rely on parliamentary privilege is an extremely shaky legal argument. They really don't have a legal leg to stand on. I do not think they will be successful in the court. It is such a weak argument that I can't imagine any lawyer would have advised them that this would be likely to succeed.
Well, and I think you'd agree
is a delay tactic.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think you'd agree as well. I mean, we're seeing, obviously, federal ministers going to be testifying. Our prime minister is going to be testifying. I mean, if there's anybody that could stand behind anything like that, it would be, people that were really involved. And they're not. They're coming out and sharing the arguments as to why they felt that it was important that the Emergencies Act be put into place. At the end of the day, all of this inquiry not only will answer that question, Michael, but it also is going to answer a lot of questions that we didn't even know we should be asking, because I think a lot of us didn't realize how poor the collaboration was between all of these organizations. Has that been surprising to you, Michael?
We're having a little problem at the moment in that I'm hearing two radio programs at the same time on my receiver, so I will do my best to answer you.
Michael, we're going to put you on hold for a second, and my team is going to help rectify that. I just asked my producers to help. Michael's hearing two radio stations in his ear. We want to make sure that doesn't happen, so we're going to put you on hold, Michael. It's a really, really important conversation today with Michael Kempa, Associate Professor at Criminology at the University of Ottawa. We have just a technical problem there. Just while we're waiting for Michael, I just want to remind everybody the Bank of Canada hiked its key interest rate by 0.5 percentage point today. Some people thought it was going to be 75 basis points, and it wasn't that high, and said rates will need to rise further to clamp down on decades high inflation. Since March, the central bank has raised its key interest rate from 0.25% to 3.75%, making it one of the fastest monetary policy tightening cycles in history. We're going to have an opportunity to speak with Clinton Wilkins about this and how it's going to affect your mortgage in a little bit as well. Economists were split on whether the Bank of Canada would go with 0.5 or 0.75% hike at today's decision. So we are hearing that. That's just been brought down by the Bank of Canada. So we wanted to bring you up to date there. We're going to go back to Michael Kempa, Associate Professor at Criminology at the University of Ottawa. My question to you, really, Michael, was we've learned a lot of different, perspectives, some that, are very disheartening to hear about the lack of collaboration between different organizations, whether that be policing or political. Has that been disappointing for you, Michael? Michael,
I'm sorry, I'm getting two programs again.
Okay, we're going to put you on hold. I'm sorry, Michael, about that, and sorry to the listeners here at City News. We're going to rectify that issue. This inquiry has been such a challenging time for so many people to hear some of the disconnect between whether it be politicians or whether it be policing organizations. And I keep thinking about people living in that downtown core during this occupation, what it was like. And we're hearing from so many people. I think about Zexi Lee. I think about a number of the other people living in the downtown core that still speak about the fact they can still, smell the diesel. When they think back to that time, they can still hear the honking. I don't think people really understand what it was like to live down there. And we're listening, of course, to all of this testimony. We know we spoke with Mayor Watson yesterday. Mayor Jim Watson joined us yesterday to speak about, the election results. But we spoke a little bit about the inquiry. And he answered questions for 5 hours, right? He had lots to contribute there, too. So there's definitely lots to think about, lots to talk about in terms of this inquiry. We're going to take a very short break here on City News and Rogers TV. Stay with us, everyone.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
On Thursday's Daytime Ottawa, veteran broadcaster right here from Ottawa, Terry Marcotte joins us on the show. He has co-authored a brand new book called Hockey Moms, The Heart of the Game. We'll get all the details on that. We'll also introduce you to an author of a brand new cookbook geared towards feeding your kids. And we'll tell you about Tamoni, Go Together, a celebration of local Japanese culture. All that and more on Thursday's Daytime Ottawa.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Hello, my name is Shawn Duhaime. And this is the Shawn Duhaime Trio. I hope you enjoy it.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News and Rogers TV. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We wanted to dive right in and have a conversation today with Clinton Wilkins from Centum Home Lenders Limited. And of course, always with us with Mortgage 101 here on City News. How are you, Clinton?
I'm doing well, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Clinton, we know that homeowners and anybody that has any credit card was holding their breath this morning because the Bank of Canada has hiked its key interest rate by 0.5 percentage point. Some thought it was going to be 0.75 percentage point. What are your thoughts this morning, Clinton?
I think it's pretty good news, Sam, to be honest. You know, I think a lot of economists were saying that there was going to be a jumbo-sized increase just due to, you know, what's been going on with inflation. I think some people thought there could even be a 100 basis point increase this meeting. So I think a 50 basis point increase really is a message from the Bank of Canada that they think that the 300 basis points that they've already increased this year is working. You know, I think inflation obviously is a big situation, and I think that you know, really what's going on across the markets really have you know, had an impact. You know, it's having an immediate impact on what's going on with the, you know, real estate really across this country. You know, I can speak to even what's going on in Ottawa. You know, these increases, you know, late last year and early into this year, the average home price in Ottawa was nearly $900,000, and now I think the average is now more around $750,000. So there certainly has been an impact, you know, in Ottawa. I can tell you, even in our market here in Halifax, we are maybe not as susceptible to the, you know, the rate sensitivities, but certainly there's not as many transactions happening right now as there were just even a few months ago.
And what will this mean, Clinton, in terms of people's mortgages? How much are you expecting that will increase a monthly or a biweekly payment?
You know, it really depends on how much, you know, a consumer, you know, owes on their mortgage and what their amortization is. But I certainly can tell you that if you're in an adjustable rate mortgage, so that's the type of mortgage that if the prime rate goes up, the payment is going to change. You will have a change either right away or by, you know, the 1st of November. Different lenders kind of put things into, you know, effect immediately, and some wait until the 1st of the following month. So there certainly are going to be some increases. I'm also concerned about those consumers that have a type of mortgage that the payment is steady. So that's called a VRM, and it's still a variable rate mortgage, but they have a static payment. We talked a little bit about this on our show, that those consumers could be hitting a trigger rate, and at a trigger point, they're either going to have to increase their mortgage payment or do a big lump sum payment to keep that amortization in line. So I think that's certainly a concern. I think know the type of product that you're in and kind of what the impacts are. I think the other thing, and I think we'd be remiss to mention it, Sam, but consumers that are in a fixed rate, I see them. I have some on social media. I see people, you know, out and about. I think some consumers that are in a fixed rate are living in a little bit of a false reality of what's going on right now. They think maybe the term is never going to end. I can tell you, we have consumers that are coming up for renewal later this year and obviously into next year that are in rates, you know, 3 and sub 3%, and they're coming up for renewal at rates that are literally double what they had.
Wow.
I'm, you know, really less concerned about people in an adjustable rate mortgage, Sam. You know, I feel the pain. I'm in a variable rate myself. But, you know, you're prepared. And I think the people that are in that variable rate mortgage product, we've already maybe cut back a little bit. We focus maybe more on our needs versus our wants. And, you know, I think we're in a bit of a storm here, and the storm is going to continue. It's going to continue until the Bank of Canada gets the inflation in line. Tiff Macklin was here in Halifax doing an address, his first public address since he was the governor of Bank of Canada just a couple weeks ago. And he said here at the Chamber of Commerce lunch that they will do whatever it takes to bring inflation in line. You know, I think a consumer that is in a variable rate mortgage, we need to take that into account. But I think a lot of economists think that we're almost at the ceiling. I was in Vancouver the week before last for our national mortgage conference. That's where mortgage brokers from all different brands, you know, come together. And Benjamin Tall, the chief economist at CIBC, said that he thinks the ceiling is somewhere around 150 or 125 basis points more than where we were at that time. So we may see another 50 to 75 basis points increase between now and the end of next year. But many economists think that we're going to be in a recession by the end of next year. And I think there's signs that we're kind of starting a recession type situation now.
Wow. And we know that that next hike, I believe, is in December, correct?
Yeah, the next meeting and the next announcement will be in December. The Bank of Canada meets 8 times a year, just so we can kind of give a little bit of mechanics to our listeners. The next meeting is December 7th. Again, we're not sure what's going to happen. It's going to be a little bit of a wait and see. Obviously, there's been now 350 basis points of increases throughout this year. So there might not be any increase in December. You know, that might be wishful thinking. There may be 25, there may be 50, there may be 75 basis points increase in December. It's really hard to know. I think once they start seeing the inflation returns and see, you know, what impact the increasing of the rates has had on inflation, I think we'll have a better idea kind of going into December. And, you know, we'll certainly be talking a lot in November about what's going on in, you know, the Bank of Canada. November is Financial Literacy Month, and we're going to be actually having a few of our shows on City News Ottawa. So we're certainly going to be talking about income, assets, and credit, and really what impact does the rate have on these type of things. So there's going to be a lot of content, and we'll certainly be here with you, Sam, to talk about those things as well.
For sure. And Clinton, what I love about our conversations and about Mortgage 101, which of course is here on City News, is you just lay it out in terms that everyone can kind of grasp, right? I mean, I think sometimes for people that aren't in this on a day-to-day basis, it can feel very mysterious to us, right? So you just seem to take the mystery out of it and just give it to us straight, which is really important. And we know, of course, as we were talking about, the Bank of Canada is forecasting inflation will slow to 3% by the end of 2023 before getting back to its 2% target in 2024. This is the long game, Clinton, isn't it?
It certainly is a long game, and I think that we're going to have to be very patient and planful over the next year. You know, I think we really need to watch our spending, Sam. That's, you know, on consumer goods. It's on travel. It's on, you know, everything that we do on a daily basis. Many of us are on a fixed income, whether that's a salary or whether you're on a pension. And, you know, 70% of consumers that have a mortgage, you know, in that 3% range, or was in that 3% range. So many people are certainly feeling the pinch as the increase, you know, in the rates happen. And, you know, don't dig yourself a hole. You know, really think about your finances and see where things are sitting. And, you know, I would really suggest, you know, before things get too tight, and if you're having some financial hardship, you know, talk to an unbiased mortgage professional. Does a midterm refinance make sense? You know, really nobody wants to pay a penalty, Sam, but a penalty is a lot better than maybe putting yourself into financial hardship that you can't then kind of dig out of. So I think, you know, certainly ask for help and ask the questions. And I think now is a really good time to be aware of what's going on with your finances. Because it's daunting.
It is daunting. And I think it can be very challenging as well for couples, Clinton. You know, one person might be a saver and one person might be a spender.
I see it.
Exactly. I mean, that's a perspective. But if you both go with an open mind to speak with somebody like yourself, you know, a mortgage broker that could kind of take the emotions out of it and really make sure that your family understands this is the long game, and try to ensure that you know, stay in your home and that you're able to, you know, to live the kind of life that you want. And as you talked about, you know, the wants and the needs and all of those pieces, it's a really important conversation. And we know that, you know, that can put a lot of pressure on families. But I think your goal, Clinton, from what I, you know, can understand from every time we speak, is to make this as easy as possible on people.
I think it really, it is daunting, and I think that there's a bit of a taboo talking about financial health and wellness, you know, and we've kind of joked about it, you know, having these Wine Wednesdays or whatever it is, and opening your bills and talking about how much you owe and how much you have in the bank and all these things. I think that's healthy. And, you know, there's many consumers that, you know, they're a lone wolf and they own a property on their own and they don't have anyone else to help them. So I think, you know, that's an internal conversation that you have, and maybe really look at things. But there's a lot of households where there's two borrowers, and I think, you know, having those conversations is really, really important. And I would say it's even more important now than it ever has been. You know, there are consumers that have mortgage products that are coming up for renewal, and I would say take early and take very steady action, typically you need to look at what your situation is 120 days before your renewal happens. There's many consumers that the renewal is going to be much higher than what it was previously. So, I think making some changes could be healthy. And the other thing is, in our market here in Halifax, and I know certainly in Ontario, there are a lot of private mortgages that when they come up for renewal, lenders don't necessarily automatically offer you a renewal option. Right. So certainly have these conversations, get your ducks in a row, know what's going on with your income, your assets, and your credit, prior to renewal. It'll be a lot easier conversation. And I think the sooner you start having these conversations and the sooner you start seeking that advice in that 120-day mark, the more kind of lead time you have to make sure that you're going to be in the best possible, situation for the next term.
Brilliant advice as always. Whenever I hear the Bank of Canada is calling a meeting, I think, well, that's okay. I get to speak with Clinton Wilkins, so It's all good. Thank you so much, Clinton, for your time today.
Thanks, Sam. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Clinton Wilkins joining us from Centum Home Lenders Limited. And we know Mortgage 101, Clinton is the feature on that, and he provides some great advice. And you can tune in, of course, here to City News. We have lots of different guests for you coming up. One guest that I'm really looking forward to hearing today is from Joel Harden, NDP MPP for Ottawa-Centre. We know that Premier Ford and Sylvia Jones are being summoned to the Emergencies Act inquiry, and they put the brakes on. They're like, we don't want to do it. I want to get Joel's perspective. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, October 26th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is 20 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it is 19. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. New housing targets have been set in Ontario, and new legislation has been promised that will reduce developer charges and allow more than one unit on a single residential lot. City News reporter Chris Curris with a local reaction.
Here's the gist of the new rules.
The need to build up, in, and out.
The executive director of the Greater Ottawa Home Builders Association tells me it will help them reach the 150,000 homes built in Ottawa plan over the next 10 years. But Jason Burgraff also tells me they aren't there just yet.
We've been growing the number of homes that we've been building over the past number of years. It's not like we're going to turn around 15,000 next year, for sure.
He says it's a number they can build up to, though, with additional recruitment into the trades, after doing about 10,000 a year most recently. Chris Curry's City News.
City News time is 11:02. The Bank of Canada rate is going up by another 0.5 percentage point. City News business editor Chris McCusker has more.
This is the 6th hike so far this year. However, a smaller hike than expected. We did see a jump of 50 basis points, so that brings the benchmark rate now to 3.75%. That was less than the 75 basis point hike expected by markets, frankly, most economists. However, in this statement from the Bank of Canada, it does signal that even with this smaller than expected hike today, we are likely to see more hikes going forward. And that was going to be something that most market watchers were watching for, to see what kind of direction and what sort of outlook the bank was forecasting, with one more meeting set in December by the Bank of Canada. At the Business Centre, Chris McCusker, City News.
And with the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
You'll need the umbrella at times today. Our guaranteed high 23 degrees. It'll feel more like 27. It's the warmest day of the week, but it's not going to stick around. A big cool down for tomorrow. Will drop to 5 for the low, with some more light rain showers at times. And tomorrow becoming mainly sunny, a brisk northwest wind, the high just 11. For today, the guaranteed high 23.
City News time is 11:03. The Premier has launched a legal challenge in federal court to prevent himself from being forced to testify at the public inquiry into the Federal Emergencies Act. City News reporter Kevin Meisner is at Queen's Park and has more.
MPPs are waiting to see if Premier Doug Ford will actually show up for question period today. He skipped it yesterday after receiving a summons to testify at the Emergencies Act inquiry in Ottawa. Doug Ford and his former Solicitor General Sylvia Jones plan to fight the summons in court, arguing being called to testify is inconsistent with their parliamentary privilege. The opposition parties, including Green Party leader Mike Schreiner, are accusing the Premier of trying to hide.
I would ask the Premier, what are you afraid of? Like, why is he afraid to be honest with the people of Ontario about the actions his government took or didn't take?
The hearing has already heard testimony that Ottawa city officials asked the Premier for help in ending the protest, but the provincial government initially refused, arguing it was a police matter. At Queen's Park, Kevin Meisner, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. We're so happy that you're with us. And you might be tuning in on Rogers TV as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here for the Sam Laprade Show. I wanted to spend some time today with Francois Levert, registered psychotherapist and director for the Centre for Interpersonal Relationships. Welcome to the show, Francois.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam, and thanks for the continued contributions you do to the conversation around mental health. It's really important work.
I really appreciate that. It really is a focus. As soon as I got the nod to do this show, Francois, it's what I said to them is really want to focus on this. And this is what you and I are going to talk about today. And I know that you specialize in couples and relationships. And I'll tell you that, this is something I certainly hear from my network in terms of the challenges that people have had, especially through this pandemic. And we've seen a lot of relationships break down during this time, Francois. What would you say to people during this challenging time about how to work together? Is there any advice that you have for us?
Sure. I think that these have been challenging times for a lot of couples. And I think that relationships as a whole, whether it be with a significant other, coworkers, friends, all of those have been impacted by this pandemic. And it can be really challenging to reemerge into the world and reform these relationships in a new, healthy way. So I guess to answer your question, it's the listening, it's the connecting, it's the being able to understand and express our underlying needs and understand what's behind the emotionality that we might experience in our conversations.
Mm-hmm. And certainly during this pandemic, we would see, let's say, a couple and one person was like, okay, let's keep going, and we're gonna get through this, and one person might have said, well, I want to change our lifestyle, I want to move, I want to do something different. When times of crisis happen, that's when it's so important that we stay tight, but that can also be a time that divides us. And is this something you're seeing in your practice?
Right. I hear that the time of being together, the time of separation, whatever that might look like, right? And I think that when we look at these pressure points in relationships, it allows for a whole redefinition of what this might look like. And what we're seeing in there is people are more in contact with their needs. And as we're moved out of the regular day-to-day routine and into something new, it provides space for something new. Mm-hmm. And I think that it can be a challenging time, but it can also be an exciting time to have maybe some unexpressed needs that are finally getting expressed and finally being able to be met.
Mm-hmm. And I know, someone, I've shared this on the show before. I've been divorced twice and, been through a lot, certainly in my life in terms of being married. And I know one area that can be really challenging for couples is when it comes to money. And we know the Bank of Canada raised its key interest rate today by 0.5%. And that kind of pressure can put a lot of pressure on couples. Is that something as well that you hear, Francois, in your practice in terms of the financial pressures on families right now?
Oh, yes. There's an expression that I have heard recently around, when there's something wrong with a flower, we don't just judge the flower, we try to change the environment, right? And I think that understanding the impact of the environment on the couple relationship is really important. And finances, children, housing situation, whether it be tied to finances or not, those are all ways in which the impact of the environment can put a little bit more pressure on these intimate and all these couple relationships.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of, certainly once again in my network, the gals get chatting. I think sometimes people wonder, when should I go and maybe see somebody? When should we maybe as a couple go and see somebody? What advice would you have for us there?
Yeah. So I think the relationship that exists in a therapeutic environment is a special one where you have a professional that's tending to the needs and space that each member of the couple can have. And I think that there's never a wrong time to step into that environment. I think that whether you're looking at strengthening what's already strong or looking at rebuilding or looking at picking up the pieces, the reason we're called the Center for Interpersonal Relationships is because of how important these relationships are, and being able to sit and be in a space that feels safe and comfortable. I think that any couple can benefit from that at any time.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Why did you get into this work, Francois?
Yeah, I've had my own personal challenges and my own existential crises that have popped up along my life. And I think that redefining how work fits in, redefining how your family fits in, redefining how your couples fit in, and who you want to be is part of the continual life work of being human and experiencing life. And I think that helping other people guide them through these discussions, guide them through these questions, I think that's a passion of mine.
For sure. It's interesting. We had a really, really interesting conversation, a really important conversation with Lisa McLeod yesterday. She's an MPP, of course, for Nepean. And we were talking about that, it sometimes can be hard to separate yourself, from when you get home, especially with a lot of people working from home right now. You get home and maybe you're a director somewhere or you're an MPP or you're a police officer, whatever you are, you get home and it's hard to sort of change. And now you're mom or now you're dad and now you're wife or husband, and a daughter or son. I mean, there's lots of different roles we play, and it can be really challenging when they get blurred, especially when, once again, our whole worlds have been turned upside down.
Right. And understanding just those shifts that can occur and the separation, the blurred lines that have taken place between work and home and all the redefinition around that stuff can be a lot to navigate. And, you know, like I was just reading a study today around like the importance of gratitude in all these relationships, where they were measuring cardiovascular responses of people accomplishing a particular task. And if there was an expression of gratitude prior to this task, you would actually see a relaxing that takes place within the heart. Like, it's not just on an emotional side, it's actually affecting us physically as well.
Wow, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. And when I think about all of the, you know, opportunities for us to grow as people, I mean, I think about who I was 10 years ago and who I am today. It's very different. But you know, it doesn't mean that it has been easy, right? I think that's another message, is being gentle on ourselves, and there will be change, and sometimes it can be a bit messy to get through it. But the bottom line is, if we keep going, there can be some big rewards there.
Yeah, I think that keeping going throughout a challenging time is a challenge in itself. And, you know, I think we've all hit these times in our lives where, boy, we sure would like to be known for something better than just being resilient or right. just being able to power through, where it's like, hey, like, where's the relaxing at the end of that? Where's the reward for all this hard work? And I think that just being able to have somebody to guide you through and to just exist in that space with you can be such a powerful experience and make it all a little bit easier. And don't we all need a little bit of that?
Oh, we certainly do. And I do find it hard, even, you know, I mean, I'm a single mom. I've obviously here on City News and Rogers TV every day. And then, you know, it's a little bit of a puzzle every single day of fitting everything in. And, you know, finding time for myself can be a challenge too. And I think everybody struggles with that, Francois.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to have time if we don't make any, right? So I think it's really important to remember that the most important relationship is actually the one you have with yourself. Like, you are the one person you're going to be living with absolutely without question for the rest of your life. And right. I think strengthening that and being kind and generous to yourself is a really important relationship to develop.
Well, I didn't think about it like that until right now, but I will moving forward. I really appreciate all the great advice today, and I know that the whole team at the Centre for Interpersonal Relationships is open to to seeing new patients, new clients at this time, because I know there's certainly a need in our community, and we're so grateful for all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really proud of the whole team here, and I think that we offer a particular brand of therapy that's really tied to those interrelationships and being able to sort through that. But the broader message is to just find someone to talk to, find someone to connect with, and whether it be at CFIR with the Center for Interpersonal Relationship or elsewhere, please take care of your mental health. Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Francois Levert joining us, registered psychotherapist, of course, at the director of the Centre for Interpersonal Relationship. Appreciate his time today. We have lots of great guests for you today. We're also going to be speaking with Joel Harden. Any minute, you'll want to lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
should never have agreed to this last race. She's too old. Eddie!
The cops are hell your back! Get to it, man!
Appears there's some kind of difficulty. There seems to be something loose up there, I believe. The console's foul!
Just once more, little girl, and you can rest.
Her last race and still undefeated, the Blue Nose out of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia was fastest in the world for almost 20 years.
I am Audrey. And I'm Leah. Leah inspired me to play hockey. The War Amps has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the War Amps allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hello, my name is Shawn Duhame. And this is the Shawn Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we wanted to head to Queen's Park today to spend some time with Joel Harden, of course, NDP MPP for Ottawa-Centre. Welcome to the show, Joel.
Good morning, Sam.
Joel, really a conversation that I want to have today is about Ontario's champion of hide and seek. And of course, that's the Premier Doug Ford. We haven't seen him here in Ottawa, certainly during the so-called Freedom Convoy, and he doesn't seem to be showing up at Queen's Park. This Emergencies Act inquiry is such an important piece of what's happening in Canada right now. Why do you think Doug Ford is avoiding this?
Well, he is the only person, Sam, who can answer that question. What I can tell you and your listeners is I'm at question period right now here at the Ontario Legislature, and the Premier saw fit to answer only one of our questions on this, and we began the session with 7 consecutive questions on this. And he answered one, and then he deferred to his House Leader for everything else. And what the government appears to believe is that they can be saved by an adjective. If they just keep repeating that this is a federal inquiry, they can lead people to believe that the Premier and the former Solicitor General don't have to show up, don't have to testify. But frankly, at this point, Sam, regardless of what one's political beliefs are, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing because, Mayor Wilkins from Windsor is testifying. Mayor Watson has already testified. Both of these people are not federal officials. So we really need the Premier, as he continues to avoid testifying, the suspicions of what he's trying to hide will grow. So he just needs to come clean, face the music, because that's what real leaders do.
Well, he's going to be asked where he was, and he's going to have to tell everybody he was on a snowmobile. I mean, The bottom line is for me, this, and I truly mean this, Joel, this does not matter to me that this is a Conservative Premier. This wouldn't matter to me if this was a Liberal Premier or an NDP Premier. Or a Green Party Premier. This does not matter to me. This is about character to me, and somebody that isn't willing, and I put Sylvia Jones in the same pot. If people aren't going to show up as an elected official when they're asked to, when they're summoned to an inquiry, what does it say about what else they're doing in this province?
Exactly. And I mean, your profession is going to be on the Premier and the Health Minister and, frankly, the Transportation Minister, Kellen Mulroney. There are questions for all three. And your profession will be on them. The official opposition will be on them. And frankly, this is a waste of all of our time. They should just come clean and testify. And what worries me, Sam, to be honest, is yesterday the government's lawyers filed documents at a federal court alleging, if you can believe it, that irreparable harm, those are the words they use, irreparable harm will be the consequence if the Premier, the Health Minister, and the Transportation Minister are compelled to testify. So I asked them today in question period, what irreparable harm are they talking about? Because I can tell you from the perspective of an Ottawa politician working with residents and businesses, irreparable harm has been done. And we're trying to make sure as a province and as a country, how can we make sure that we come together more, that we listen to each other better more, so something like this never happens again. I don't think we have a lot of patience for a politician saying that it's too damaging for him to come to Ottawa. I offered him a ride myself this morning, Sam. My travel is subsidized by the people of Ontario. I'll give the Premier a lift back to Ottawa. What's the excuse? There should be no excuse.
Well, he'd need a map, Joel, to be honest with you. The other piece, too, is when I think about, talk about irreparable harm. I know a mom with a newborn baby that had to move with her parents to Nepean because she was up all night with this baby because of the honking and the fumes and all of that. Talk about irreparable harm. He should give her a call, and he can absolutely hear firsthand what went on downtown for 4 weeks in the capital of this country, Ottawa, being in the province of Ontario, which we had to remind the Premier a number of times. This is absolutely disgraceful that he's doing this. And I'll be honest with you, when we looked down that list, Joel, for the very first time, looked at the 65 names and didn't see him there, that smelled to me. That smelled really bad to me.
Yeah, I share your concern, Sam, and the only evidence I have is the following. It took the government 3 weeks to act. They were prodded by the Federal Emergency Act. They finally towed 39 trucks that were involved in the convoy protest. But then a week later, Sam, they gave those trucks back to those truck owners with no fines. The Premier talked about $100,000 fines. He talked about permanently pulling people's licenses for holding a city hostage. He put his arm around the mayor and said, I got you, buddy, whatever you need. But really at this point, Sam, because he's ducking and weaving, it's just words. And, we need to keep up the pressure. Everybody listening to your program today, please pick up the phone, sit down in front of your keyboard, call the office of the Premier. If you have a Conservative representative, call that person and tell them that you expect people to show up. That's a big part of life. Even when we make mistakes, you got to show up and you got to face the music. And we're certainly not going to let the pressure off, Sam. We're going to keep the pressure off.
Well, I'd love to know the conversations that happened between the Premier as well, and from his perspective, and Mayor Watson, and the Mayor of Windsor, and, the Mayor of Toronto, because you can definitely know that, there wasn't the type of situation in Toronto that happened here in Ottawa in terms of trucks. What were the conversations between all of them? Why wasn't he participating in those tri-level discussions? Where was he? I don't understand. And we know, let's be clear, there was an election on June 2nd. I don't have to tell you that twice, Joel. I mean, this was January and February. He was not popular. Was this his way, once again, of playing hide and seek, knowing that the election was right around the corner? I mean, is this politicking on the backs of people that, honest to Pete, for 4 weeks, had their lives absolutely consumed by diesel and honking?
That's right. And what we do know from evidence disclosure, Sam, is that the Premier told Mayor Watson that those intergovernmental meetings between the federal government, the municipal government, the provincial government, he told those folks that it was a waste of his time. That's what he said. So we need to know why he felt like it was a waste of his time. Why is it a waste of my time to be accountable and to be present and to answer questions? If the federal government could show up, if the City of Ottawa could show up, why did the Solicitor General at the time, Sylvia Jones, why did they duck and leave those meetings? And now why are they sending their high-level bureaucrats to the inquiry to face the music instead of doing it themselves? Frankly, it really speaks of cowardice. It speaks of political cowardice. And I expect better, regardless of your political perspective. I expect better from people in this profession.
Well, you think about the money that's being poured into this inquiry. We know that this commissioner has to have this work done by February of 2023. He can't play games. We can't play games in this country. The amount of money that's going into this inquiry, and you add, this court proceeding on top of it. I know the people of Ontario has much different ways they'd like to spend money. Try putting it into the halls of some of these hospitals and these emergency rooms that are closing every 2 weeks in this region.
Exactly. We need the money for important things. So, look, if Premier supporters are out there listening, he's likely to listen to you more than me. So get on the phone if you agree with the idea of integrity, as you mentioned, Sam, get on the phone, get on the email. Apparently the Premier loves to answer his phone, particularly for his own supporters. So get on the phone and tell him that he's got to face the music.
Joel, what else are you hoping to accomplish at Queen's Park? I know this has kind of taken over our time today because I'm a bit hot under the collar about it, but what else are you hoping? We've got only about a minute left. What are you hoping to make happen this particular term?
Well, I let the Chamber know about some exciting news this morning, Sam. On November 5th, neighbors from Gatineau and Ottawa are planning something called the electrical cord protest. And what we're going to do is we're going to run extension cords from Quebec to Ontario to import, just as a community of people, clean, affordable energy, because unfortunately the province is canceling its energy agreement with Quebec, and this is the most affordable power we could import to make sure that we double our electrical load, and instead the government's pushing ahead and wanting to fire up more gas-fired electricity, which is terrible for the environment, and also at least twice as expensive. So stay tuned for details on the electrical cord protest. I know all Canadians love electrical cords. We use them for everything. This is a safe, family-friendly thing to send a message to the government, and we'd enjoy any one of your listeners coming and taking part.
Well, I look forward to that. Joel, I appreciate your time today, and definitely, I know question period is a big part of your work. We appreciate you keeping the heat on the Premier. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Be well, Sam.
Joel Harden joining us, NDP MPP for Ottawa-Centre. When we come back, we're going from Queen's Park all the way to Osgoode. George Darouze is going to join us. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talk.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week, we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
One for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, October 26th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is 20 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it is 21. And here's what's making news this hour. The Bank of Canada rate is going up by another 0.5 percentage point. In a statement released alongside the rate increase, the central bank says its key interest rates would need to rise even further to clamp down on high inflation. Now, since March, the rate has climbed from 0.25% to 3.75%. The Bank of Canada is forecasting inflation will slow to 3% by the end of 2023 before getting back to its 2% target in 2024. Senior police members are continuing to testify at the public inquiry into the use of the Emergencies Act. The Emergencies Act was invoked in February and granted temporary and extraordinary powers to police forces and governments to end the so-called Freedom Convoy demonstrations. Superintendent Robert Bernier oversaw the Ottawa Police Command Centre for a portion of the protest. Bernier says he would have carried out a pre-planned police operation to remove trucks and other vehicles, even if the law had not been invoked. Meanwhile, Premier Doug Ford says the Emergencies Act inquiry is a federal proceeding into the federal government's use of the act and not a provincial issue. His comment in question period at Ontario's legislature comes as he is fighting a summons to testify at the inquiry. Ford says the inquiry is a policing matter and not a political one. Recall that the commission summoned Ford and then Solicitor General Sylvia Jones on Monday to testify, and lawyers for Ford and Jones have filed an application for a judicial review that seeks to quash the summons, citing parliamentary privilege. I am Damilola Onime. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we want to catch up with some of these amazing councillors that have been elected. We know that certainly the slate is full now. We have a number of incumbents coming back and some new councillors around the table, and we really hope that this council has an opportunity to really turn a page and start fresh. We know November 15th is the big day. George Darouze joins me now, councillor for Osgoode. Hello, councillor.
Hello, good morning.
Councillor, you certainly had a bit of a tough race this time. Were you expecting that?
Thank you very much for asking. We knew it's going to be tight. You have to remember, Mr. Thompson was there for 30 years, council, mayor, throughout amalgamation and before. And demographic is changing, and we don't have a lot of people. I don't know what's going on with the voter turnout. So we were a little bit, when you were running a tight race, and throughout the campaign we have a lot of smear campaign happen, but we decided to take the high road, and we decided not to answer some of the empty promises, and we didn't want to get into the weeds. So we ran on our record, and that's a commitment we made at the beginning of the campaign, and that's what happened when you have a campaign like that.
It's such a different race from whether you live in downtown Ottawa or Barrhaven or Orleans compared to Osgoode. Talk to us a little bit about what it means for this particular election in regards to Osgoode and some of the challenges that are being sort of chatted about at the doors this particular election.
Yeah, you know what? This is a very good question, Sam. A resident in Osgoode Ward, they've been telling me, and this is one of our priority, we need to focus on service, and we need to focus on our roads and our infrastructures. We need to keep investing the way we've been investing, and in our emergency services. We heard about policing, people now working from home, so they're more working in the communities. So there is a speeding, and they need more police presence. We have the problem with the paramedic at the hospital with offloading. That was also reflected on the campaign trail, because sometimes people they recognize there is an issue, but they don't care what level of government is involved. They need you to solve it, and you're the only person at their door be able to talk to you. So those were very high priority and principles in the campaign. Mm-hmm. We heard a lot from our residents that they worry about the road. They worry about the future of our investment and our investment in our LRT. They have some concern on also the way that the city is spending money. So it was really lots of good things happen, and that's why you have a campaign every 4 years. They renew what you've been running for, and it will give you a sense of at the door what people are dealing with. And also you have to remember, we added Var, Bearbrook, and Carleton to our ward. So also they have a different challenges. So it was there is so many elements in that campaign that that brought that race too close to each other. But we know we ran a nice and clean campaign, and then we heard the resident, and now this is behind us. My job is, and my mandate is to service all our residents in Osgoode Ward, all the new villages and all the existing villages, and making sure now we focus on services. This is what the main message we've heard in this campaign.
And George, one area that I really want to focus on today is we know that Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe, and we know the Premier, and obviously Minister Steve Clark. Everyone sort of is thinking about housing and what that's going to mean for the province, but communities as well. We know the rural areas obviously have space for development. Is that something that those communities want? Do they want to grow, or do they like staying the size they are with sort of that small town feel, if you will?
Yeah, so the small villages that they want to keep the small feel, they don't want an expansion. They don't want to extend their villages. Like if you look at villages like Osgoode, like Metcalfe, those residents, they don't want any more development in their neighborhood. They're happy how they want to keep the village momentum, if you say, or the vibe, if you say. But also, I heard a lot about the new area where they wanted the development in Carleton. And we heard a lot of people, some people are against it, and I respect that. There is some people who live in Piperville, they're not very happy with it, which is fine. But the province wants us to submit land where we need to grow between now and the next 25 years, and we have approximately 550,000 residents need to be able to find them housing. So if you can, the supply with the demand is, we need it. We need to be able to build more homes. We need affordable homes. Our kids living in basements now, they'll not be able to afford to buy new homes with the market it is right now. So we need to build. You need to find an area. And I don't think rural villages want an expansion, because probably also through the provincial policy statement, we need to bring water, you need to bring services. We don't have that capacity.
It's certainly going to be interesting to see how we're going to find, the space. We know the R1, talk is certainly something that's top of mind in terms of R1 zoning. How do you feel about the R1 zoning issue?
We have the R1 zoning has been an issue and has been talked all along in the campaign. You know what? I support anything to help, and anything the province want to bring to the table forward, and anything our new mayor-elect want his vision on how we need to handle the R1 zoning. I am in support of all that, as long we can solve a problem, and as long we can solve the affordability in our communities.
I know you referenced roads a little bit earlier. I was out in your ward the past couple of weekends hosting some events, and I was out in Russell, actually, past your area, of course. But I was traveling some of those roads. Some of them are let's just call them challenging, Councillor. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Like, you know what? I in 2014, when I took that ward, and I think this is one of the highlights of our campaign, and we kept focusing, we brought over $108 million in infrastructure. I'm not sure if you remember, but you wouldn't be able to drive on Stagecoach, Snake Island, Mitch Owens, and River Road, and Domney Road, and Marvelville, and Victoria. But those are, and York's Corner, Parkway, those roads they're long. And the challenge with rural road, they're not 1 kilometer.
Right.
You have 5, 6, and 7, and 8 kilometer stretch of them, right? So you have to do a bit section by section. But also, I always tell people, and I'm famous on this, I tell people, when you see the paving is the icing on the cake. It takes a lot of time and years to change all the culvert and prepare the infrastructure, clean all the ditches, because water is a major issue on those roads. If you don't deal with the drainage, and if you don't deal how the water move under the road, and other than that, if you pave them on top of the old infrastructure, they won't last long. So it takes a lot of time to pave a road, and it costs a lot of money. Roughly, on a major road, every kilometer costs around $1 million. Believe it or not. And this is a fact. Those are approximate costs, but they cost that much. So we have a challenging more road to do. We've done a lot of major road infrastructure in our community, and we still have more road to work on, and then we'll continue those efforts.
Let me ask you this. We know that there's going to be 13 faces around the council table that we know. We know there's 12 new people coming back, including Mayor-elect. We know Steve Darouze is coming back, so he won't need as much of a warm-up as maybe brand new councillors. But we've talked a lot about the new faces, but I want to know what you think your responsibility is being an incumbent. How do you welcome the new councillors? How do you ensure that that it will be a council that can work together? What do you see your role in that is?
My role, I'm going to be welcoming all the colleagues and the new faces that they're coming. Our job is, it's a new chapter, it's a new council. We need to collectively work with them. We will be meeting with them and explaining to them about the city, because we have two roles. When you're elected as a city council, I always tell people you have three roles. You have your role in the community, and then you have commitment to your small communities, of course, from event perspective and all that, but also you have a responsibility as a city councilor for the city in all the city. Mm-hmm. So we have to collectively as council, and I've been saying it in my campaign messages, Council 2022 and the new council, we need to focus and go back to basics. We need to tackle issues, what it means to our resident at the door. We need to look at core services. We have all of them. I'm telling you right now, there is every road has different issues, but the common issues and infrastructures and community protective services and all those measure and highlight, and the planning and the building and housing, those are all common issues in every council. And we need to unite with each other and sit down and realize and understand we have a responsibility to build a successful city. The city of Ottawa is very unique from a perspective of rural, suburban, and urban. And our job as a incumbent, I'm coming back on the table with my colleagues that they've been with me before. We need to work with our new councillors. We need to show them that we are welcoming to them, and their interest is our interest. And I know, I'm sure, I heard Mayor-elect Sutcliffe that this is one of his key and major priority at council table to reunite and work collectively. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward for that, and I play as much as role as they want me to help rebuild and be part of the team of this new council that's coming in. And I will be offering all my expertise and my service to them, and I'm going to have an open policy with them, and anything they need help with, and I'm going to be able to work with all of them.
Councillor, let me ask you, when you meet with Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe, will you be asking for certain committees at this point? Is this the time to have those conversations?
I honestly haven't even thought of that yet, but it's a question. If I was asked, I will probably give my preferences where I like to see myself in at committee. But I know I got elected in 2014, and as a council, not as a mayor. And I know right now, you've been drinking. He's going to be drinking from the fire hose. There is a lot of requests and people and orientation. So there is more important thing for him now to deal with before he gets sworn in and before he settles in his office. He needs to hire staff and all that. And I'm thinking and I'm assuming in at the first quarter of 2023, when we start looking at committee, at that time, he'll ask us and we'll have an email circulated by the clerk, and then we can. But this is still early for me to bring anything. Right now, I'm going to give him all the support he needs to settle in his new office and to be able to get his staff. We need to give him time to breathe, and we need to give him time to settle in.
Yeah, very good advice there. Thank you so much, Councillor, for spending time with us today. Osgoode Councillor George Darouze spending time with us today on City News, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. When we come back, Wendy Boomer is going to be in the house, of course, my radio sister, at Country 92.3. Well, you won't want to miss it. Lock it in on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
20 bucks. And Mcgee, Mrs. Calabash, come into my kitchen. A quick mayonnaise, egg yolks, garlic, Dijon mustard, lemon juice, olive oil, immersion blender. Go down, come up. Voila, mayonnaise. Bum, 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 bum. 20 bucks. 20 bucks. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sahai from The Wiggles, and this is my new book, Something in Common. Join me on an adventure as a camp counsellor helping some amazing children make friends and share what family means to them. I wrote this book with my friends at Children's Aid Foundation of Canada to help children who might feel lonely or like they don't belong. Not everyone has the same type of family, but we all have something in common. Download Something in Common for free.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
What do you get when you combine a big personality of Wendy Boomer of Country 92.3 and our host, Sam Laprade?
Lots of fast talking and laughter. This is what you need to know with Wendy Boomer on the Sam Laprade Show.
Well, I'm just going to say it. It's my favorite time of week.
Yeah.
Because Wendy Boomer is in the house.
You often inform me of more than I inform you, though. So shall we start with you?
Okay, so I don't know if you saw the picture. So last night, yes. I posted on social media. Last night, I was so happy to host the Breaking Bread, Breaking Stigma event for Hopewell, which of course really focuses on eating disorders. And they needed every single dollar because their numbers have just climbed in terms of people looking for help. But we had a lot of fun doing it. So we had some great auction items, but the whole event is a sandwich competition. Oh, it's amazing. So there was like 6 different chefs creating these incredible sandwiches. I had 2. There's no way I could have eaten 6, but I had 2, one little one and then one medium one. But really creative. And then of course we had judges, and one of the judges was Chef Joe Thatungle, of course, from Coconut Lagoon. And
cool.
Margaret Dickinson was another one, and we had lots of different exciting opportunities there for people to get involved. So it was a really fun night and
good turnout.
Really good turnout. It was lots of fun. It was at All Saints. I don't know if you know All Saints on Laurier. And, I can't remember the cross street, but it's a great opportunity there to connect with people. So it was fun to get out, and I'm going to be out on Thursday night too.
What are you hosting on Thursday?
I'm hosting the Voskers.
The Voskers? What are the Voskers?
The Voskers are the Volunteer Ottawa Awards. This is like
Oh, that's
4th or 5th year.
That's adorable. Voskers.
Yes.
Every community should have the Voskers.
Absolutely. So we have the in-person event, which we haven't been in person since 2019.
Right.
I hosted the virtual ones for a couple years, but we're in person, and such an important event once again to really recognize people that just give back to this community and give so much of themselves. So it's grateful.
Oh, that night has to be full of so much joy.
Oh my God.
Like everybody's so happy to be there and so happy to, just highlight those that deserve it. Usually are behind the scenes.
100%. I think that's why they bring me back. I tear up every year. So
she's tearing up now. Oh, yes.
Exactly. Very, very emotional.
Voskers, love that.
What's happening in the Valley?
Well, honestly, let's be real. It's Halloween weekend.
I know, it's exciting.
This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Get in the spirit.
Absolutely.
And we have things here that we're lucky enough to basically take in year after year. And I have to say, I'm ashamed that I haven't made it to Pumpkin Furno yet.
Yes.
Yes.
I haven't either.
And it's supposed to be absolutely stunning. I've actually seen it in Kingston because there's two versions of this, right? There's one at Fort Henry, and then of course there's Pumpkin Inferno here. So I just looked up, and there's actually still tickets available for this weekend, only $20 at Upper Canada Village.
Oh, that's very reasonable.
And there's a mix of real pumpkins and kind of, fake pumpkins that they've put together for this, but the creations are massive. Mm-hmm. So again, if you happen to be one of those pumpkin spice latte girls who's all crazy about the leaves changing color, and you haven't been to Pumpkin Inferno, how dare you?
You've got to go. You have to go.
You have to go. So, but that's what I love about this one. It's great for all ages.
That's amazing.
It's just really, eye-capturing and fun, and I always love Upper Canada Village anyway. You immediately feel like you're stepping back in time. Absolutely. And so this is one that you can do with just, a group of girls and your lattes, or with the kids.
So I don't know if you remember when you were at Upper Canada Village, but there's an area called, I think it's the Loucks House.
Mm-hmm.
Loucks. That's my maiden name.
Oh, I did.
So sometimes people will go and they're like, is that your? And I'm like, I'm old, but I'm not that old, right? But
is that where you live?
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes but once a year I have somebody go, is that relation to you? So lots of great things happening there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and again, that they're gonna crank it up a notch. Mm-hmm. But then if you like a little bit more scary,
okay,
you got to go to Saunders Farm.
Yes.
Right now, again, this is one that I've taken part in a lot in the past, and they have things that aren't so scary.
Right.
Let's say it that way too.
Pumpkin
they have the kids
days.
section in the the pumpkin maze and all these kinds of things and great little goodies and whatnot. But if you want to get lost and scared, they also have that. As a matter of fact, I saw Amy Volume from Shay. She got made up at Saunders Farms earlier this week as a zombie.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it was, this is like movie makeup.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're amazing.
It's high quality. Mm-hmm. And it was terrifying. And Amy is adorable.
I know.
The before and after, I was like, whoa, I did not expect
amazing.
that. So
I don't know if you know, but I'm actually at Saunders Farms about 4 to 5 times a week right now.
Oh, why?
Because my daughter works there.
Oh, right.
And she's having so much fun. So she really does more sort of the pumpkin days.
Okay.
So she's there. She loves, helping families pick out their pumpkins and all of that. She takes pictures of families and all that kind of fun stuff. But she's starting to work a little bit at night. So, of course, what does that mean? It means about a dozen parents waiting in the pickup zone at night. I usually get terrified about 5 times just waiting.
Yeah.
But Saunders Farms, we had Mark Saunders on here actually a little bit earlier this week on the business lunch, talking about really the business model. They have come so far. They have cider now.
Oh, my goodness.
Food offerings. Like, I'm really impressed, not only from going there and spending time with family, but I'm really impressed by what they've done over the years from a business perspective. Brilliant.
Yeah, and again, just always upping it and staying around, you know? It's just not easy after what everybody's been through. So it's so nice to sit here and be able to talk about that kind of staple in our community that, again, just feels like a Halloween tradition that you got to get into.
Absolutely. Do you remember dressing up as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's your most favorite costume when you think back?
Well, we've got time, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorites was Rainbow Bright.
Oh, sweet.
But, it was the 80s. And my parents had to be creative. We didn't have a ton of money, and it was probably snowing, so we had to find a way to be rainbow bright over a snowsuit. And my mom just bought all these different color ribbons and tied them around my wrists and my ankles. And so I remember thinking that was pretty cute, but looking back on pictures and just being like, oh, the effort.
Yes.
But I really was, it was not much long after that every year Mom said, what do you want to be? Black cat.
Right.
And I was
easy going.
A black cat from, the time of about 10 to 20.
Right.
Although there was one year where I was a California raisin.
Oh, that's
fun. My girlfriend and I were talking about this the other day. Remember when we were kids and costumes like this would come up, like a California raisin?
Right.
Where it was this, like, I had this huge sheet that was all sewn together and I had to stuff it with pillows, and then I saw through the top hat that was attached to it, and I walked around like this big giant thing.
Oh, that's funny.
And my girlfriend was talking about convincing her daughter to wear a costume that has more to it.
Right.
She's like, when did that change?
Oh, that's so funny. So two of my favorites, I went, so I used to go out with my little buddy, Freddie.
Yeah.
So Freddie was about a foot shorter than I was. So picture this. He was John Travolta, and I was Olivia Newton-John.
Yes.
My mother threw, I don't even know where she got this blonde wig on me, these big gaudy earrings, and that's what I was. That's everyone referred to me from then on as Olivia Newton-John that night. And I had my little UNICEF box. I was more excited about collecting money for UNICEF.
Classic Sam Laprade.
Honestly, and I've still got the picture. It's so funny. But then one year we went as a pair of dice. Like boxes, or obviously big boxes, and then somebody cut the black out of construction paper or whatever on this dice. But those were the good old days.
Yeah. See, the couple costumes are my favorite. My husband and I have pulled off Dolly and Kenny.
Love it. Yes, you could do that.
We've pulled off Dog and Beth the Bounty Hunters.
Oh, I love it.
We've had some good ones.
There may be a theme there. Anyway, fantastic. Lovely to always spend time with you, Wendy Boomer from Country 92.3. Coming up next, Wendy, we're going to have 3 Valley mayors joining us for Lunch with Sam. You won't want to miss it. We want you to stay with us here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Shawn Duhame. And this is the Shawn Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoy it.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
I'm Mallory, and I was walking home one night when an impaired driver hit me. He had been overserved in 2 bars before getting behind the wheel. If the servers would have called him a cab instead of serving him more alcohol, my life would be the same as what it used to be. I think servers play the biggest role in keeping us safe because it's up to them what state the person's in when they leave. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law.
Here we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, October 26th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is 20 degrees. In Smith Falls, it is 21. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The cost of everything is already high, but it's about to go higher if you owe money. And that's because the Bank of Canada is raising interest rates again. But it's certainly not as much as some analysts were expecting. City News business editor Chris McCusker has the details.
Not as big as the 75 basis points that most were expecting, but still a hike of 50 basis points today. And that brings the overnight lending rate to 3.75% as this overly aggressive rate hiking cycle by the central bank continues in an effort to cool inflation, which stands at 6.9%. Now, the Bank of Canada is saying in the statement that it does expect inflation will fall sharply to below 3% by the end of next year, and that would put it back within the bank's target range for the first time since early 2021. The Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem now speaking on this decision. One of his remarks here is that the Bank of Canada is getting closer to the end of the tightening cycle. I guess all of this very obviously data dependent. At the Business Centre, I'm Chris McCusker.
And with the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
We've got some light rain showers at times today and tonight. A gusty and strong south wind. Our guaranteed high 23 degrees. It'll feel a bit warmer with the humidity. 5 for the low, and then becoming mainly sunny tomorrow. Brisk northwest wind. The high just 11 degrees. Sunshine on Friday. For today, the guaranteed high 23.
City News time is 12:01. After being a no-show the day before, Premier Doug Ford is back in the legislature, where he is in the hot seat over his refusal to testify at the Emergencies Act inquiry. City News Queen's Park reporter Richard Southern has the latest on what Ford had to say and what he didn't say.
This is the first time we've heard Ford speak on the matter. He's refusing to testify in front of the Emergencies Act Committee and, in fact, is going to court to prevent being summoned. Here he is under questioning from NDP's Merritt Stein.
Other political leaders, Mr. Speaker, aren't afraid to talk to this commission. Why is this premier shaking in his boots?
This is a federal inquiry into the federal government's use of the Federal Emergencies Act. Again, Mr. Speaker, this is a federal inquiry.
So that's the reasoning he's using here at Queen's Park. In his court case, though, the Premier citing parliamentary privilege, which prevents an MPP from testifying when the legislature's in session. Taking issue with that, federal MP Chris Biddle.
The legislature isn't sitting on November 10th. I think people have a lot of questions. I think the Premier of Ontario should stand up and answer them.
At Queen's Park, Richard Southern, City News.
The Ford government is set to enact new rules around housing that they say will lead to more housing getting built in this province. City News reporter Chris Curries has that story.
Housing targets have been set in Ontario, 1.5 million homes over 10 years, 150,000 of that right in Ottawa. A new legislation would include reduced developer charges and allowing more than one unit on a single residential lot. Jason Burgraff is the executive director of the Greater Ottawa Home Builders Association and says it means they want to build up, in and out. And while they're not exactly capable of building 15,000 homes a year, they will get there.
It's a number, on the average over the next 10 years that I think we can certainly build up to.
He tells me it's not just tearing down a home and building 3 units a lot. It could be, by chance, converting a single home into a multi-generational home. Chris Curries, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. And for news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, it's time to grab your lunch because it's Lunch with Sam. This is an opportunity for us to connect with people in our community and talk about issues that are really important. And I am so excited about today because we're heading into the Valley. And what's better than one mayor? Well, it's 2 mayors. Well, what's better than 2 mayors? It's 3 mayors. And we're joined today by Mayor Shawn Pankow from Smith Falls. Hi, Shawn, how are you?
Hi, Sam. I'm doing well, thank you.
It's great to be connected today. Mayor-elect Toby Randell, of course, from Carleton Place. Hi, Toby.
Hi, nice to be here.
It's a pleasure. And Mayor-elect Lisa Mcgee from Arnprior. Hi, Lisa.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We want to talk about some of the priorities in your communities. Such an important conversation, especially when we have so many people looking to your communities to move into them, especially following the pandemic, people looking for a different pace of life. Shawn, walk me through a little bit about the priorities in beautiful Smith Falls.
I've got to tell you, I'm so sorry. I'm having a really difficult time hearing you because there's a...
Okay, no problem. We're going to put, my producer's going to put you on hold. Shawn, can you hear me okay?
I have connectivity issues. I have someone talking over top of the broadcast, unfortunately.
No worries, Shawn. We're having a few technical problems today. I'm going to put you all on hold. Our producers are going to work their magic, and we can come back in a minute. This was an opportunity today to really connect with those mayors that have been newly elected. Once again, Mayor-elect Toby Randell in Carleton Place and Mayor-elect Elisa Mcgee in Arnprior. Mayor Shawn Pankow has been re-elected in Smith Falls, and he's been very generous with his time over the years talking about all those different issues that are happening in Smith Falls. So we're going to get connected with them. We're going to talk today with them about the priorities once again in their community. We're also going to talk about affordable housing. This is something that is certainly top of mind for I think any elected official right now. We're also going to talk about what makes some of those issues unique in the rural communities that are maybe not typical in cities such as Ottawa. We're going to talk about what's unique. We're also going to talk about the paramedic shortages. I mean, we've heard stories about those shortages for a long time now, but it seems to be only getting worse, and especially out in those rural communities, we want to talk about that as well. So we're going to be talking to our mayors about that today. They're going to spend their lunchtime with us, and we're so happy that you're spending your lunchtime with us as well. And then at 12:30, right after the 12:30 news, that's when we head into the business lunch. And this is an opportunity to really put a focus on business in this community. And we wanted to speak with Dennis Van Stall-DyeMen. He's going to be spending some time with us today talking about Wellington West BIA and what's happening there. We're going to head back to the Valley. I think I've got my trio of mayors back again. Our producers have worked their magic. Hello, everyone. Have we got all our mayors back? Okay, we're going to take a short break and get them back. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News
101.1 FM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Behold Emily Carr, painter, about to encounter the force that will consume her life.
Tightly they sealed their secrets from me, humble and pleading before the great trees, awaiting the invitation from the Spirit to come meet me halfway. Nothing is still now, everything is alive. At last, I knew I must see through the eye of the totem itself, the mythic eye of the forest.
Seldom able to live by her brush, before she died in 1945, Emily Carr was in the first rank of Canadian painters.
This is my country. What I want to express is here and I love it. Amen.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back. It's Lunch with Sam on City News and Rogers TV. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We have a trio of mayors with us today. Mayor Shawn Pankow from Smith Falls, Mayor-elect Toby Randell from Carleton Place, and Mayor-elect Lisa Mcgee from Arnprior. Let's head to Smith Falls. What are your priorities, Shawn? What are you hoping to get accomplished in this term?
Thanks, Sam. Infrastructure renewal and replacement, I'm sure my partners on here are still critical needs. I mean, most of our infrastructure is 100 years old, so the next 4 years we'll be replacing our water tower, which is about an $8 million tab. Water and sewer works are also in the works. Continue to build on fully licensed and improvements, including our parks and play structures, trails and lighting for safety and things like that. And then I think equality as well, and recognizing housing affordability and food security, while not exclusively a municipal issue, I think we need to be part of the solution. So supporting the development of a new health and social service hub and partnering with an organization to bring more community space the donation of small property is also a key priority for the next term.
For sure. Thank you so much for that, Mayor Pankow. And Mayor-elect Toby Randell, let's talk a little bit, Toby, about the priorities in beautiful Carleton Place.
Well, thank you, and I'll echo some of what Mayor Pankow from Smith Falls has said, but we're in a bit of a different situation here in Carleton Place. We've been growing at such an expansive rate the past 6 or 7 years. I think it's time for Carleton Place to slow down. The growth is going to continue to come here. We're a destination spot, not only in Lanark County, but all of Canada, has been pointed out. So what we're looking to do, or I'm looking to do on this new council, is to maybe switch some of the funding that we've been disproportionately out to different departments and put it back into our recreation and culture department, and look to update some of our older facilities and add some new amenities, and to help draw a tourism dollar back into Carleton Place. It's something that we've that we've kind of gotten away from these past number of years, and we need to give what I like to call items that people can see, touch, and feel to see that their tax dollars are being used for them. Also, communication here in Carleton Place, how we communicate with each other on council, with our staff, and then outwardly towards the community is going to be something that we focus on and concentrate on, so that everybody feels. We have a lot of new people in Carleton Place, and we want to make sure that everybody feels welcome. Everybody feels part of that small town Carleton Place that everybody has come to love and move to. So those are a few of the priorities that we have.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Toby. And of course, the lovely community of Arnprior as well has a new mayor, Mayor-elect Lisa Mcgee. What are your thoughts in terms of what's in the future for Arnprior?
Thanks so much for the question. The future seems to be, it's happening whether we want it or not. Common theme to what we've just heard from the other two new mayors is growth. We are in a period of unprecedented growth. And so we need to manage that and along with it, encourage and entice all of the amenities that are needed when you have a growing population, recognizing that we cannot be all things to all people, but we certainly need to be a place where people can live, work, and play. We've seen some great energy from our local business owners. They're springboarding on our revitalization that we had downtown. And so working with them in a collaborative way to enhance tourism opportunities that seem to be happening, the trickle-down effect of improving your core. We have a waterfront that needs some enhancements, breakwater, pathways, lighting, creating a gateway to the downtown. So making sure that we're managing that in a fiscally responsible way, but encouraging the accessibility opportunities that it provides. And then, it hasn't been much of a secret that we need to restore faith in our town administration and council. It's been a bit of a rough term here in Arnprior, and people have said that they're looking for a more positive, a council that they can respect and that is respectful to one another. And I'm looking forward to being that person.
Appreciate that very much, Lisa. Congratulations again. And, the theme really for so many campaigns that were happening in the Ottawa community, of course, was about affordable housing. And I know we've spoke a lot about this over the years, but, let's ask you, Toby, in terms of Carleton Place, a lot of people think, well, if I can't afford to live in Ottawa, maybe I can afford Carleton Place. Is there still affordability issues when it comes to Carleton Place?
Yes, this was a hot topic for our past term, and I think it's not inclusive to Carleton Place, Lanark County. This is province-wide and actually Canada-wide. But Carleton Place will continue to kind of move the needle forward. We've done a lot of work this past term as a group, and we'll encourage that our new group moving forward continues to openly talk about it with our citizens and with our community partners and developers to ensure that we are looking after the needs of all of our citizens. This past term, our council adopted the approval of secondary suites on properties. We did a community improvement plan with our CIP to allow some more funding for affordable housing. We've given developers grants. We've done changes to our official plan, and we've collaborated and will continue to collaborate with developers to find new ways that we can address this issue, because A, it's not going to go away, and B, it's going to take the entire community as a whole to help fix this issue, which is on everybody's minds.
Certainly has been on the mind of Mayor Pankow. We've had this conversation a couple of times, but going into this next term, what are your goals for affordable housing, Mayor Pankow?
Well, we'll certainly continue on a path. I think we started on this term where we had a housing task force on the advisory committee, like Carleton Place. We've made zoning changes, implemented an attainable housing community improvement plan. So I think a lot of the foundation that we need has been built. What's critical to that, though, obviously, is funding. So a community improvement plan for attainable housing doesn't get a lot of traction unless this council commits the future council commits some dollars to that. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, we had a focus on accessibility and trying to ensure that people who need a home, everyone needs a home that works for them. So trying to ensure that there is a degree of construction with accessibility in mind, not just barrier-free, but universal accessibility for people who need that. And then we've been working with our friends from the Valley here, with community support, and we have one project underway, and we recently completed a memorandum of understanding for a second project. But understanding the challenges and trying to put together deeply affordable rent to income housing, the funding limitations from the federal government stand as a barrier, which is deeply concerning. We know that the Rapid Housing Initiative funding that came out twice in the last year and a half or so did not, to my understanding, reach any small municipality. And so we need help in different roles of government. We can't do it on our own. But locally, we've pretty much exhausted every opportunity we have through partnerships and through policy changes and incentives, and we're hopeful that when funded through this term, they will make a difference.
Let's shift gears a little bit. I appreciate that, Mayor Pankow. Let's shift gears a little bit. Mayor-elect Mcgee, when you think about paramedic shortages, this has been an ongoing issue, certainly here in the capital. I'm assuming in the Valley as well. Walk us through what's happening in terms of paramedics in Arnprior.
Certainly. Now, recognizing the fact that we are a lower tier municipality, and so paramedics, that does fall under the county responsibility, Renfrew County. And we are incredibly fortunate to have Mike Nolan, who's the Director of Emergency Services for the county. He's a visionary. He is creative. He's finding these opportunities here to, not just for paramedics, he's looking at the system as a whole. So one of the things that he's doing, for example, is sort of a community-based paramedic care, which helps. They're identifying those who are the most frequent users and those who need the 911 system. Elderly people with chronic health issues, and they are going out as paramedics, providing sort of a mobile medical opportunity, and that will help minimize and reduce the need for emergency paramedics. So that's something that they've regularly been doing and increasing. I think we need to be creative with any solutions that we're looking to find, because it's not just paramedics. I think we all recognize that there is a labor shortage right now in many different industries, and so everyone's looking to find the best solution. And sometimes those come from the most creative approaches. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Mike Nolan as well. I've known him many, many years, and I appreciate that very much. Toby, of course, Mayor-elect in Carleton Place. Are you having issues when it comes to paramedics?
Yes, I think that, again, this is for us, it's a Lanark County issue. Far too often we're seeing that Lanark County ambulances are actually being dragged into the city of Ottawa due to some shortages there. As Mayor-elect Mcgee mentioned, that this is an upper tier ballywig is what I would call it. It's not a lower tier funding that we have a lot of control over, and so what we need to do, and I will do, is engage with our upper tier partners at the county, at the province. We have a newly elected MP here, John Jordan, who I have already had conversations with, and will continue to reach out to ensure that this issue, amongst many others, are front of mind when it comes to Carleton Place, and not only Carleton Place, but I will have the opportunity, along with my deputy mayor-elect Andrew Tenant, to have a new voice and a passion at the county, and so that Carleton Place is front of mind at the county, but also that the county's needs are being met. And right now, shortages within the ambulance service is critical, and I think our upper tier partners need to hear that loud and clear. We've had some changes here. We're about to expand our emergency department in Carleton Place, and with that, our ambulance bay as well. So there's some exciting things on the horizon, but we can't lose sight of the fact that there are needs in small town rural Ontario, and we need to use our voices around this panel and around the county in Eastern Ontario to ensure that our upper tier partners and politicians
citizens hear loud and clear that we need some assistance in this area.
Beautifully said. Appreciate that very much. We only have maybe about 30 seconds for you each, but I really want you to inspire us to visit your particular community. And there's so much happening in your communities. And I'm going to start with Shawn Pankow. Inspire us to visit Smith Falls, Mayor.
Well, I would have been here recognizing the beauty, the natural and built beauty here, the Rdio Canal. And we're at the heart of the Rdio Canal. Everybody loves our park spaces and waterfront recreation elements. We've revitalized the tennis and pickleball courts and basketball courts in recent years. We've installed indoor fitness equipment and volleyball courts. We have dog parks, all kinds of features which are great for our residents and for visitors. The Brewing Museum of Eastern Ontario is a real gem. Dairy Chef Museum is a really unique attraction. We've got our Station Theatre. We've got great local amateur theatre and world-class entertainment like illusionist Ted and Marion Outerbridge, which I think you're familiar with. They performed all summer long. Great restaurants and new bars and nightclubs that have emerged. Great local entertainment. Really no shortage of things to do to enjoy life in Smith Falls.
Really appreciate that. And Lisa, inspire us to visit Arnprior.
One of my favorite questions. I'm an Airbnb host, so hospitality is one of my things.
Right.
And people come here for a variety of reasons. You know, we are the town of two beautiful rivers, so we have a strong boating community and a walkable downtown from the marina where they can dock. We have a day dock that they can visit that way and then make their way up to our revitalized downtown with its quaint and amazing little shops. Class A entertainment, you know, we've really enhanced that. We have a really revitalized downtown set of businesses that are grabbing the world by the cojones and just making things happen in that way. So we've got a lot of tourism opportunities, really fun Thursday evenings, live music all the time. And of course, we've got our crown jewel, Robert Simpson Park, with the splash pad, the beautiful beach, everything that goes on, Gillies Grove walking trails, and we have the oldest bowling alley in Canada as well. You know, and if you come here for anything, I would say it's also for the friendliness of the community. There's nothing like small town people for making you feel good and putting a bright spot into your day.
Absolutely. We only have about maybe 30 seconds. Toby, inspire us to head to Carleton Place.
Yeah, I could talk about Carleton Place for days. So we, like both our partners here on the show, have revitalized our downtown core. We've got a brand new bridge that will be hopefully done by the end of the year, the beginning of the new year. We have so many parks, probably more parks than any other community in Lanark County, but we're revitalizing our downtown. We've become very well known for an eclectic group of food and food trucks, and we have our beautiful Mississippi River, our crown jewel in Riverside Park, and but ultimately at the end of the day, what draws people to Carleton Place are its people. Absolutely. They are warm, they're receptive, and we are just known as a community that cares about each other and those that come. So I look forward to the next 4 years, and I wish my cohorts luck in their terms as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Of course, Mayor Shawn Pankow from Smith Falls, Mayor-elect Toby Randell from Carleton Place, and Mayor-elect Lisa Mcgee from Arnprior. Appreciate the trio of mayors that joined us for Lunch with Sam today. When we come back, it's the business lunch. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hello, my name is Shawn DyeMen. And this is the Shawn DyeMen Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888 Taxi Guy or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
One for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, October 26th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Onime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, mostly cloudy, 22 degrees. And here's what's making news this hour. Premier Doug Ford made a return to question period today, and his efforts to avoid testifying at the Emergencies Act inquiry are front and center. When asked why he is challenging the summons to testify, Ford said it is a federal inquiry and a policing matter and not a political one. The commission summoned Ford and then Solicitor General Sylvia Jones to testify at the inquiry, but the Ontario government has since filed a judicial review to challenge the summon. And the RCMP says a Quebec woman who just returned to Canada from Syria will face terrorism charges. The RCMP says they arrested her last night and charged her with leaving Canada to participate in the activity of a terrorist group, as well as other charges. In a statement, it says that the woman had been under investigation by the police force's Integrated National Security Enforcement Team since November of 2014. She's expected to appear at a Montreal courthouse later today. The Competition Bureau says WestJet's proposed acquisition of Sunwing Vacation and Sunwing Airlines is likely to result in a substantial prevention of competition in the sale of vacations to Canadians. The regulator says that eliminating the rivalry between the airlines would likely end with higher prices and fewer choices. The regulator's concerns were outlined in a report delivered to the Minister of Transportation. The final decision regarding the deal will be made by Cabinet at a later date. City News time is 12:32. I am Damilola Onime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it is the business lunch every day between 12:30 and 1. We really put the spotlight on business, and I love this opportunity to get to know business leaders, of course, and what is really making the business community tick. We wanted to spend some time today with Dennis Van Stall-DyeMen. How are you, Dennis?
I'm doing very well, Sam. How are you?
Fantastic. Executive Director from Wellington West BIA. Very first question for you, Dennis.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of the area that you're covering in terms of your members.
Do you mean the general sense or the sense
from
of
what
the
street?
election?
From what street to what street? Like, so on Wellington West, give us a sense of what street.
Sorry, yes. We cover the entire neighborhoods of Hintonburg and Wellington Village. So we all go all the way from the O train tracks in the east to Island Park Drive in the west, and from Scott Street in the north to Queensway in the south. So great big 2.4 kilometer wide section of urban Main Street that we love to call home.
And some of my favorite places to shop. So there you go.
Well, as they should be.
Fantastic. What are some of the issues facing your members, Dennis?
Certainly as we come out of sort of the last 2 years of confusion, darkness, uncertainty, and I have to say a lot of business closures and a lot of pain and turmoil, This summer and this fall have been kind of both a welcome kind of injection of normalcy and a sense of getting back to business and getting back on track, but also dealing with a lot of the kind of repercussions of all of the stuff that's happened over the last couple of years. So I would never be arrogant enough to say that we're out of it, but certainly the feeling is different, the tone is different, and this summer and this fall have felt like we can plan again. We can actually say we're going to do something in a couple of weeks, and are reasonably hopeful that thing will happen.
And I don't mean to startle you, but of course 2 months today is Boxing Day, which means all that Christmas shopping will have happened. Dennis, how do you put a focus on holiday shopping for 2.4 kilometers worth of retailers and restaurants and important services in our community?
Yeah, well, it's funny you should mention that. I spent a good chunk of my morning in planning for what we call our giving season. So we designate every season, every 2 months we switch between seasons. So right now we're in our taste season when we're featuring food, and starting in November and December we pivot into giving season. But for us, it really ramps up after November 11th, of course, because our messages before November 11th, before Remembrance Day, are about giving back to your community and sort of the giving spirit of our community, and then really ramping up heavily into promoting gift giving and the businesses in this neighborhood. So, I mean, you mentioned some of your favorite stores are in this area. Certainly, we have some of Ottawa's best, kind of local fashion and gift stores, home decor. Food boutiques galore, places where you can buy, everything from the best bagels in Ottawa to, fancy olive oils and vinegars and those types of things. So, really, I think for us, it's a matter, we're really blessed with a lot of those types of places, and places that people in Ottawa really either do know about and talk about, or if they do find out about them, they're very excited about it. So for us, it's less a matter of trying to make up a story about, why people should come here. And it's more about highlighting the reasons they already have to come here and just reminding them that they're all together in one place and that this is the place they want to come and have a coffee and do some shopping and spend some time with their friends coming into November and December.
Absolutely. And I find too, when I think about heading down there, I used to be concerned, about parking, but I have to be honest with you, Dennis, I never have a problem finding parking. And I think a lot of people maybe from Stittsville or Canada or Orleans or Rockland feel like, boy, where will I be able to park? But it seems like there are lots of opportunities to park in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and parking is a catch-22 from a business development perspective, because the more crowded the parking is and the harder it is for people to find spots, the higher the level of demand that we see anecdotally on the street, right? So it's sort of, we do want to encourage people to come down, and we do have amazing amounts of free parking for people who are coming from outside of the neighborhood. But we also want them to just park their car, get out and walk and enjoy the streets, because there's so much to enjoy. So our challenge is to get people out of their cars and get them staying for longer when they come here, rather than just pulling into a parking spot, popping out, getting back in their car. Our sort of sweet spot are the people who really want an experience when they go into a neighborhood, as opposed to just try to get up a product and get out of the place. So
absolutely.
We're trying to warm it up when they get here, try to entice them to stick around and, have a beer.
Well, and there's so much to do in that area. And I have to say, I mean, Hintonburg's certainly come a long way. I remember, I'm old enough, Dennis, to remember when maybe that wasn't an area that was booming, but it certainly is now. And it's so wonderful to see all the success and to all of the business owners, particularly part of your BIA, please send them our love, because we know how hard it has been for each and every one of them. And, they've stayed true to keep going and marching on and guarantee that I'm hoping they feel the love back this Christmas season when we come and spend some of those dollars with them.
I hope so. They are the warm beating heart of this community, and their generosity and their bravery and tenacity and the spirit they showed. The worst time of my career was COVID, but one of the times where this community really came together and showed what it is and how it operates was also during COVID, and just an amazing level of support, both from our neighbors, and the spirit of our businesses really shone through. So now hopefully we can take that to the next level.
Absolutely. What advice would you have for anybody, Dennis, that is wanting to maybe start a business? You would have a very interesting perspective of this. What would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and actually, that's another one of the stories that has happened over the last little while. Is we're seeing a lot of new businesses by people who are opening a store or a service for the very first time. I think a lot of people did career rethinks during COVID. So right now, it's very much a time where those pivots are turning into actual businesses on the street. I would say when you go into a neighborhood, realize that you're not just renting a store. You're buying into a space that already has its own life and its own energy. Mm-hmm. And the more time you can spend just understanding, meeting neighbors, walking the streets, the more you're going to be in tune with the folks that are already there. We can't teach our members anything about financial accounting or inventory management. That's not our job. Mm-hmm. But the thing that we do work on them with is that idea of connection and integration and supporting each other and mutually working with the BIA and with other neighboring businesses to promote themselves, create special events, make special experiences for customers. And to really create those relationships that are going to support them over time. Spend less time thinking about the dollars and cents and the nuts and the bolts. Those are really important. But in a neighborhood like this particularly, think more about how you can give back in a way that shows people that you're in tune with what they value as well.
It's so true, Dennis, because I walked into, and I can't remember the name of the store right now, but I think it's called Flamingo. I walked in it, and the lady was like, "Oh, nice to see you again," and I was like, wow, you remember me, right? I mean, I think there's something about that sort of connection, like you mentioned, relationships, and you want to walk in somewhere where somebody says, you know what, I see you here, and it's important that you're here, and it just makes you want to buy more, of course.
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean, we can't compete with the Walmarts and the big box centers on price or volume or even parking. They got way more parking than we'll ever have.
Right.
But in terms of going to a place where somebody knows you and recognizes you and can, get to know your preferences over time and can recommend things to you, but also where it's fun and where it's fun to go and just explore new places. Definitely. That's where we have an advantage, and we always will. And that's why Main Street is here to stay as an integral and important part both of the city and of the retail landscape.
Beautifully said. Dennis Van Stall-DyeMen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Sam. Have a great day. And we look forward to seeing you a lot of times this holiday shopping season.
Guaranteed. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Dennis, for joining us.
Thank you.
Executive Director for Wellington West BIA. We really appreciate that. When we come back as well, we're going to speak with Don Drummond, former Chief Economist at TD Bank, Senior Fellow at C.D. Howe Institute. We're going to be speaking about that interest rate hike. And my producers tell me there's a surprise guest today. We certainly look forward to that. I'm going to be surprised, too. You want to lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough, and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
I am Audrey. And I'm Leah. Leah inspired me to play hockey. The War Amps has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the War Amps allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
A lot of homeowners, when they went to bed last night, didn't really fall asleep very quickly. They're worried about that interest rate hike today by the Bank of Canada. We know that announcement was made just after 10 o'clock this morning. We wanted to spend some time today with Don Drummond, former chief economist at TD Bank and senior fellow at the C.D. Howe Institute. Hi, Don. Hi, Don. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. We know the Bank of Canada raised that interest rate 0.5%. Is that what you were expecting?
Actually, it was. I think the toss-up was between 50 or 75 basis points, but to me it didn't matter at all because the rate is now 3.75, and they made it very clear that they're not done yet. So we're going to end up with a number, at least with a 4 in front of it. So whether they did 50 this time or 75 this time, it doesn't matter because I suspect there's at least another 25 basis points to come.
It's certainly going to be interesting. We know that next announcement's happening, I believe, December 7th, so homeowners can hold their breath until then. People, of course, with credit card debt as well. What do you think this means overall for Canada?
Well, there's no doubt that the economy is slowing and will slow further, and indeed that's expressly shown in the Bank of Canada's outlook. They expect real GDP growth to be a little bit less than 1% in 2023, and you think a normal growth rate will be 1.5% to 2% rate. So it's not terrible. It's not necessarily a recession, although less than 1% technically could be 2 negative quarters, but it would be a weakening of the economy, but still at a relatively high economic level of activity. And again, if the Bank of Canada's forecast is right, they see it going back to about 2% growth in 2024. So by the standard of history, certainly relative to the recessions of the 1980s and the 1990s, that will be a fairly mild slowdown and a fairly short duration. Whether it turns out that way or not is another matter. But actually, for a lot of people, this rate makes a big difference because a lot of people were very close to what's called the trigger rate on their variable mortgages. And as interest rates have been rising to this point, all the mortgage holders have been doing is shifting more of their payments into interest and less from principal. So a lot of people are actually on an amortization period of about 100 years right now. But they hit a certain trigger point where they increase the monthly payments for the first time. And a lot of people will have hit that with this increase of today. A lot of them were very close to it.
And let me ask you this, Don. You know, a lot of families obviously are struggling right now. We speak with business owners all the time here on the Business Lunch. It is a challenging time. Can you give us any hope? This is the long game. We spoke a little bit earlier with Clinton Wilkins about that from a mortgage perspective. But is there any hope in here?
Well, the basic element of this is we have forgotten and we've been misled on what normal is. And so people are thinking this, with today's interest rate increases, put interest rates at a high level. But they're not high by any historical standard other than since around 2008. That is the abnormality in Canada's long-run history. And if you look at prior generations, my parents' generation faced legislated mortgage rates of 6%. My generation thought that was a bargain because my first home was at a 17% mortgage. Some people were high as 22%. It was fairly typical from the 1980s until 2008 that people have 5-6% mortgages. That's what you thought was normal. And now we've had, if you're in your 20s or 30s, your entire home ownership experience has been at these rock bottom mortgage rates, and a lot of people told you expect that to hold forever. That was never going to happen. There's a reversion back to that historical normal, and of course as that happens, people say, hey, wait, this is really shocking. And of course they built up these extraordinarily large debt loads on that assumption interest rates are going to stay, and that's why people are hurting. But there's really, we're just barely outside of what the Bank of Canada considers a neutral or a normal rate of interest. They're not particularly high.
It's really interesting to get that perspective because you're right. I mean, different generations are seeing this differently. It certainly has been, a challenge for many families. Do you think we'll see people, Don, because of this, this type of interest rate hike from the Bank of Canada, lose their homes? Are we at that point?
Not an awful lot, and so far we have not been seeing, if you look at the mortgage portfolios or the mortgage insurers, we're not seeing a lot going even into arrears, never mind into default. And of course, we've had pretty stringent conditions in order to qualify for mortgages. So if you think of somebody who has a relatively small down payment is required to have mortgage insurance, there's a lot of stringent conditions you had to pass. You had to show you had the financial wherewithal to absorb much higher interest rates, higher still than they are today. So there's a certain financial security in that. The bigger wallop, and the thing that forces difficulty on the home ownership front is not typically the interest rates, it's the loss of employment. And we have seen employment drifting down, but albeit still at a pretty high level, and the unemployment rate's still very low. It's a terrible thing to say, and it shows the crudeness of monetary policy, but they will not succeed in getting inflation back to 2% unless they force some weakening in the labor market, and that will mean some increase in the unemployment rate. It may not be particularly high. I mean, again, going back to history, in the early 1980s, the unemployment rate was in double digits and stayed there for a long time. I don't think we'll see anything like that, but we may creep up to 5 to 6 or 7%, and that's certainly going to hurt a lot of people. That will be the risk on the home ownership and the mortgage front, more so, I think, than the interest rates.
Really appreciate your perspective today, Don. It's really interesting. Thank you so much. Don Drummond spending time with us today, former chief economist at the TD Bank and senior fellow at the C.D. Howe Institute. Well, I was promised a special guest. And our special guest has arrived, and it's the one and only Sandra Plagakis. Sandra, how are you?
Did you not know that I was the special guest?
Well, I heard there was a special guest, and I was like a little bit nervous because I didn't know who it was. And of course, Sandra from KISS 105.3. How are you?
I'm good. You know, the last time I was sitting in this studio was with the now mayor-elect, Mark Cyclone.
That's hilarious.
I know. What a surreal world that we're living in. Yeah, so I used to sit here all the time, and I used to come on the show with Mark on Fridays. But I have to say, you are much better looking.
Well, that's very sweet. He does look very handsome on the front of the paper today,
honestly, what a feeling of pride to know that somebody that you've worked with has achieved so much, and people see the same things in him that we see in him. And that feels really, really good. Plus, he's my friend and your friend.
Right.
So, like, we're all thinking, okay, what kind of perks can I get out of this? Am I going to get some good parking spots out of this?
I'm really hoping, because he doesn't show it often, but I'm really hoping that at some point he shows a wonderful sense of humor, because he has a very dry sense of humor. You have to listen really closely, but he has a fantastic sense of humor.
Oh, well, he's hilarious. He was on our show yesterday, and he was killing it.
Yeah, he's awesome. How are you?
I'm great. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why are you here at 1 o'clock? Well, I like to do a check every once in a while with the little people to say hello in the hallways.
Thank you so much for checking in with us.
I just want to make sure because, when I leave, this place falls apart. Right. So I like to come back and just make sure everything's copacetic and everything's running smoothly. And I'm happy to report that Rogers Radio is running smoothly this afternoon.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
That's fantastic. You are always up to good things. You're all over the place. You and Chris have so much fun in the mornings.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, Sam, here's the thing. It is the haunting season right now, as you know. And one of the things we like to do is just scare the hell out of each other. And there is so much distrust in the building right now. I mean, I don't even walk into a room without kicking it open because I'm convinced there's somebody on the other side wearing a sloth mask. I check under every table that I go, because I'm not kidding. We don't mess around here.
Well, I was on my way to a meeting this morning and you ran past me and I thought, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be scared. That's my problem, is I don't want to be scared.
Well, Sam, we did something that we've never done before this morning. We did the elusive double scare. No. That's when you dart across the room and scare somebody, and then they scream, and then they breathe a sigh of relief, and then as they keep walking, there's another one right around the corner. We damn near killed the man, but the video will be out tomorrow morning.
Oh, I can't wait! I can't wait.
That's how we roll.
I can't wait. It's so lovely. We're so excited about this new time slot, and of course, really excited because Rob Snow is on from 6 to 9 in the mornings, and then David Smith 9 to 10, and then I'm joining from 10 to 1 every day, which means I get to hang out with you today.
Would you like me to be a permanent guest on your show, Sam? Is that where we're going with this?
I was kind of winking at you, I mean,
you didn't invite me. I just invited myself, just to be absolutely clear.
It was so much fun to see you. I'm so glad to see you.
I know. Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
Today, once we actually have a meeting today, which is why I am here, but once it's over, I am going to put that car in turbo. I'm going to dart across the 417. My son is graduating from Algonquin College today, and they're doing the convocation at Canadian Tire Centre. I want to see that piece of paper placed into that boy's hand because it cost me everything in my savings account. I need to see it.
And you're a proud mom. That's amazing. I'm an Algonquin alum. A lot of our staff, of course, as you know.
I am too.
And you're an Algonquin.
Yes.
There you go, Algonquin alum. There you go. Very proud moment. And congratulations, Mom.
I did nothing except pay for the education, but I will cry like I did.
Of course.
Earn it or something.
Of course you will. Such a great celebration there for all those Algonquin alumni and Algonquin graduates today. It has been my pleasure, my honor, spending time with you today on Rogers TV and City News. Lock it in for our news of the afternoon.